Britain's news channel.
Good morning. Taxes are lifted to a record high. Rachel Reeves reveals a budget with businesses, workers and savers paying the price.
Tax thresholds are frozen for the next 3 years and the OBR is warning of low growth. Is the country being plunged into an economic doom loop?
I've yet to see a credible or a fairer alternative plan for working people. These are my choices, the right choices for a fairer, a stronger and more secure Britain.
Well, the Chancellor defends her budget, but having said at the last one she wouldn't come back for more, last night Rachel Reeves didn't rule it out.
So, has the Chancellor made Britain's economic woes even worse?
Well, she might have pleased her own MPs and calmed the markets, but how do you feel about £67 billion of tax rises since Labour came in, especially given they said that they would not raise taxes on working people?
Is it time to say goodbye to the one-in, one-out scheme? Research shows the government's partial migrant returns deal has deterred channel crossings at a lower rate than the Conservatives' Rwanda scheme that didn't actually even start.
President Trump's son defends the US-Russian envoy Steve Witkoff. It's over leaked conversations which appear to show him coaching Russian officials on how to handle the US president.
And sport this morning, good, the bad and the ugly for England English teams in the Champions League last night. The good, as Arsenal win again, this time against the mighty Bayern Munich. It's bad for Spurs as they concede 5 goals in Paris, although to be fair they did score 3. And ugly Liverpool get thrashed at home by PSV Eindhoven on their worst run in 71 years.
It's a much milder day today for sure, but also quite cloudy and there's some rain around and strengthening winds, especially across parts of Scotland. Stick around to find out more.
It's just gone 6 o'clock. I'm Stephen Dixon.
I'm Ellie Costello and this is GB News Breakfast.
Now, if you feel like life is a waste of time at the moment...
Dark start to the morning.
It is a dark start to the morning. Things are a little bit depressing today, aren't they, after? We'll talk about all that in a moment.
Yes.
Anyway, this is grim news, but I'm sure you'll all understand it. Apparently, according to the latest study, we lose or spend 3 days of our lives looking for the car.
Yep.
That's what it boils down to now. Where did I leave the car? Well, it's going to take you 3 days to find it in total. So, you know, multi-storey car parks, supermarket car parks, airport car parks.
This happened to me the other day. I was on the wrong floor of the multi-storey car park and I thought my car had been stolen. I was doing loops and loops of the floor.
It's panicky, though, isn't it?
It is a bit panicky. Get the heebie-jeebies, but then it was the wrong floor. And it was, in fact, where I'd left it.
Yeah.
Well, I kind of thought it might be.
I was panicking.
This seems like we typically spend 13 minutes looking for a lost vehicle. 13 minutes at a time.
Have you got the Find My Car thing? It's on the phone.
Well, clearly we need
Which
it.
I think it's on most iPhones you get it, don't you?
Is it?
Yeah, Find My Car. And then it shows you where it is, because I've done that before. I thought, I've no idea where it is.
How does it know where your car is?
I don't know. I don't know.
Oh.
I think it's whether you stop and then it... I don't know. But it does work. Find my car. Try that next
I'm
time.
going to give that a go.
Yeah.
So I was thinking maybe I need is it an AirTag?
Hold on.
AirTag.
You put an AirTag in the car and then
That would
you know what your
work.
car
Catherine
is.
knows how it works.
Interestingly, Churchill, the insurance company...
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what they're thinking of. They're blaming all this on the fact that we have so many cars in shades of grey, black
true.
and white.
It's true.
What, do they all buy lemon yellow cars or something?
Yes.
They don't stand out in a car park.
There's a great... This is in the Mail this morning. There's a great Pew cartoon, someone at a lost property desk saying, I've found my car, thanks, but now I can't find my savings or my pension.
Oh. Catherine Forster's in the studio with us.
Well, 3 days looking for a car. I once, on holiday, spent well over an hour and turned out to be in the wrong car park entirely. I'd come down out of a shopping centre and there were 2 car parks underneath and we didn't realise it was bad. But 3 days looking for a car, but how long do we spend looking for the car keys? Or even house keys, because that is a huge waste of time. And I have got the Apple Find My things, but...
But you don't know how to use them.
They don't always work.
OK.
They don't always work. The batteries that I've replaced are baby-proof. They've got a bitter taste, and so they don't work on the Find My. It's very annoying.
Dear, oh dear.
Baby-proof bitter batteries. There you go. Well, anyway, look, if you are struggling to find your car or your pension or your savings, Rachel Reeves has finally delivered her budget after months of gruelling anticipation.
To break the cycle of austerity, we need a fair and a sustainable tax system. That does mean that today I am asking everyone to make a contribution.
But the drama began before she even reached the dispatch box.
Yeah, a leaked report from the Office for Budget Responsibility overshadowed the announcement and it sparked fury across Westminster.
This is deeply disappointing and a serious error on their part. The Office for Budget Responsibility have already made a statement taking full responsibility for their breach.
Well, the Conservative leader, Kemi Badenoch, has demanded that Rachel Reeves resigns, accusing the Chancellor of losing control.
It tells you everything you need to know about her grip on the Treasury. She's making the UK a shambolic laughingstock to international investors, and if she doesn't resign for breaking her promises, she should sure as hell go for this.
Yeah. So, as the country digests the fallout of the budget, are the Chancellor's days actually numbered?
Well, joining us now in the studio is our political correspondent, Catherine Forster. What do you make of it all, Catherine?
Well, in terms of are her days numbered, I think she and the Prime Minister have bought themselves some time, though I still think come next May in the local elections that could change. But look, she had 3 audiences for this, one of whom very importantly, was their own Labour MPs. And a lot of what they've done, let's face it, is at the demand of Labour backbenchers that they were worried might decide to get rid of them, in terms of lifting the 2-child benefit cap, something Rachel Reeves said was unaffordable, did not want to do, those U-turns on the winter fuel allowance, and so on. There is a lot of welfare spending here to keep Labour MPs on side. Also, the markets, they were very worried about a bad reaction. The markets have taken it well because they've raised their headroom to £20-odd billion. But the audience that really should be the one that matters, let's face it, is the voters. They told us, I remember being on the the Labour bus, over and over again. They said that they wouldn't raise taxes beyond very limited ones, VAT on school fees, taxes on non-doms, about £8.5 billion of tax rises, they told us. All the other money would come from growth. Now we've got the growth projections going down, growth looking very lacklustre. And lo and behold, £40 billion of tax rises in that budget last year. She said she wouldn't do it again. Now she's come back with another £26 billion. And as for the manifesto, well, you can argue on the head of a pin whether they've breached it, but they've certainly breached it in spirit. The Institute for Fiscal Studies says they have. They said that they would not put up taxes on working people. Those tax threshold freezes are going to drag huge numbers of people into paying higher taxes. People's taxes, by and large, are going up. And, of course, the opposition will say they're doing that to fund welfare spending.
What I don't understand with this, though, is a lot of these taxes are going up, but not for several years. So we're not going to see the benefit. They're not going to see that extra income come in for a long time.
No, they're not. So it's a spend now, pay later. I think what they are hoping is that maybe this growth that they kept talking about being their central mission that seems to be pretty absent will come through, and that perhaps they might not need to follow through on all of this. But if they do, they will be bringing in those tax rises just at the point that they are trying to get re-elected. How is that going to play? They are already massively unpopular, and that is before this budget.
Can we talk about the mess and the chaos that started even before the budget yesterday, with the OBR publishing the entire budget about an hour out before Rachel Reeves even got to the dispatch box?
It was unbelievable. I was sat just above in the press gallery, and we started seeing that it was published. And so basically all of the political journalists stopped listening to PMQs. We didn't listen to PMQs. We were all pouring through this, putting it out. You could see Rachel Reeves down below. Somebody had told her. I mean, it was disastrous because it was all out there before she got to announce it. Now, that is a mess-up of the OBR. I expect that somebody's head will roll. But look, this budget was trailed and trailed and trailed in advance. We've never seen anything like it. And, you know, it has worried people. It has, we are told, depressed growth because people for months and months have been worried about tax rises that the government might or might not bring in. And in the event, they have brought most of them in. Yeah. Or they will, as you say, in a couple of years' time.
All right, Catherine, thank you. If you want to find out how you'll be impacted by the budget, you can scan the QR code, which will appear magically on your screen in just a moment, fingers crossed, or, oh, there it is. If you can't wait for that, go to gbnews.com and you can use our free budget calculator.
Well, just joining us now to discuss the fallout of the budget is political commentator Charlie Rowley. Morning to you, Charlie.
Good morning.
What do you make of what you heard yesterday from Rachel Reeves?
Well, we were told consistently that this would be a Labour budget, and it was. More tax, more spend, more debt, higher welfare payments, all on the backs of the hardest working people, where people were told that they weren't going to see an increase in their income taxes, they weren't going to see an increase in national insurance contributions, and because of that fiscal drag, because of that extension of the tax thresholds, Catherine's absolutely right. You know, the government will say, well, it's all semantics about whether we said we were going to raise income tax or not. They repeatedly said that to the country. They led us up the garden path, making it absolutely clear that income tax wasn't going to go up, or national insurance. And what has happened? More people will now be paying the higher rate of tax and the additional rate of tax. That is an increase on tax on working people. That is one charge that this government has to face. The second is, where's the growth? Growth has been downgraded year on year by the OBR, and that was the central plank of this government's message. That's why it got elected, to grow the economy, to deal with the public finances on the back of growth. And we're not going to see it. I mean, you know, the BBC are here on recruiting for Celebrity Traitors 2026. You know, need they look further? I mean, there's a traitor in plain sight. I mean, it wasn't, you know, it wasn't a murder in plain sight. It was a massacre of the UK finances, because the taxes that she's raised are not going to grow the economy. The OBR have said that also. So she's tinkered around the edge. She's raised more tax. She's giving herself that fiscal headroom, which had been wiped out because of inflation, because of the markets, had a lack of confidence in the first budget. And she tried to restore confidence in the market by saying, we're only going for one tax grab once. And she said, I don't need to do that anymore. I'm not coming back for more. And lo and behold, yesterday, she's come back for more. It's a mess.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what. Let's see what business commentator Ian King, morning Ian, has to make of it all. I mean, is this a disaster for the British economy?
Well, look, there was a very good piece in the FT trailing the budget in which it said she's got four key constituents to appeal to. Number one, the bond markets. Number two, her own MPs. Number three, business. And number four, the electorate. It's impossible to keep all those four different constituencies happy. She's kept the bond markets happy. Gilt yields, which is the implied government borrowing costs, actually fell yesterday by more than they have done for any fiscal event, any budget since 2006. So that tells you that the market is broadly happy with what she's announced in terms of the UK being able to carry on servicing its debts, which is the key thing that they look for. Labour MPs, well, they're obviously very happy. They got a few of the things that they were looking for. Business, not so much so. I mean, there was not very much about stimulating growth in any of this. Basically, the best that business could hope for was that it wasn't going to get thumped with higher taxes in the way that it was last year. It still will be. There are still sectors that are being picked off. You saw, for example, North Sea oil producers, their share prices sold off yesterday. The house builders sold off very heavily. This mansion tax, it's going to cause a lot of disruption to the higher end of the housing market without really raising a significant sum of money. So the house builders sold off. There was a very, very good campaign fought by the horse racing industry, but there are still elements of the gaming and betting industry that are being hit. The banks, well, they avoided a big bank tax. That was a major triumph of lobbying for them. But then you look around more broadly, the retail sector, they were very worried about big hikes in business rates on some of their larger stores. The supermarkets were worried about that. Well, they're still being hit, but not to the extent that they feared they were. But there was nothing really in it about growth. There was nothing about stimulating growth. At the end of the day, productivity is what drives people's improvements in living standards. We got the downgrade that we expected from the Office for Budget Responsibility. The biggest single drag on productivity over the last decade or so, probably if not more, has been the public sector. The NHS is less productive than it was even going into the pandemic, even post-pandemic, where it's had significant sums of money thrown at it without an accompanying improvement in productivity. And that was, for me, one of the most interesting single paragraphs in the OBR's report. They pointed out that there are real risk factors attached to the productivity outlook. And basically, if the UK economy carries on... So she's given herself £22 billion worth of headroom by the end of this Parliament. Well, if productivity drifts along at the rate that it has been for the last 15 years, that falls away to a deficit of £6 billion. On the other hand, if we get an uptick in productivity, which no one really expects, to be fair, but if we do, the OBR said she could have a surplus of as much as £59 billion come the end of the Parliament. So that's the prize. It's how you drive that productivity growth. And there was really not very much in the budget yesterday to do that.
And for increased productivity, you need more people to be working. And we saw yesterday, didn't we, the minimum wage is up, national living wage also going up. But that could actually have the opposite effect on business, who would have to freeze hiring.
Well, sorry, I must pick you up there. You say you need more people to be working. I mean, improvements in productivity is doing more with less. So you could conceivably, if output remains the same and fewer people are working, well, that's a rise in productivity. Yeah. But that doesn't really do much for living standards for the broad mass of people. You know, you're absolutely right. You do want more people in work. And yes, the rise that we've had in the national living wage yesterday, whilst it's great news for people who are on that income, potentially it's going to be pushing up hiring costs, as you say. There are some really interesting quirks that this creates now. Someone on the national living wage is effectively, if they're working full-time, is effectively going to be earning at the point where, for example, the student loan thresholds kick in. So basically anyone, even the poorest students, even the students who've graduated with all of these huge sums of money that they owe to the government, well, they're going to be immediately having to pay that, which is effectively an extra 9% on their income tax rate. So these people are going to be in a poverty trap. The other question it raises, which again has been picked up by the newspapers a couple of weeks ago, if you're on the minimum wage and you're working full-time, basically your annual income will now be at a level where, for example, a graduate trainee at one of the big four accounting firms, which are traditionally big graduate employers, you're going to be earning as much as those guys. So it begs the question, why on earth would you saddle yourself with tens of thousands of pounds worth of debt going to university if you can just make that money stacking shelves at a supermarket?
Yeah. All right, Ian, thank you very much indeed. And Charlie, thank you. We'll see you both a little bit later on.
Now, 18 minutes past 6. Let's get a check on the weather with Alex Burkle.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Good morning, this is your GB News weather update from the Met Office. It's fair to say it's quite a bit milder than it was this time yesterday for many of us, and the milder theme's going to continue through today, but with that it's also going to be quite cloudy and a bit wet at times. We have some rain across northern and western areas at the moment, and a lot of that is going to filter a bit further east and southeast as we go through the day, but it's going to take quite a while to move through, so actually some parts of the southeast staying largely dry at least through daylight hours. That is. Now, as I mentioned, it's mild, markedly milder than it was this time yesterday, and temperatures rising through the day. We're looking at highs around 13, 14 Celsius, so a fair few degrees above average for the time of year. But we do need to watch out for some strong blustery winds. Breezy for all of us, but the strongest winds will be across northern and western parts of Scotland as we go through this evening, and overnight gusts of 60 to 70, perhaps 75 miles per hour here. Also, plenty of showers across northern and western Scotland. Some of them could be quite heavy. A few showers across parts of Northern Ireland through this evening. Some clearer weather across much of northern England and Wales, but across central, southern, eastern England, it's a cloudy, damp end to the day, but eventually that rain is going to clear away towards the southeast around midnight time. I'm expecting it to clear away entirely. Otherwise then, clearer skies following in behind for most, but still plenty of showers towards the north and west. Still those strong winds to watch out for as well towards northwest Scotland. Temperatures not dropping as low as they have done through some recent nights. Despite the clear skies, that breeze will stop it from getting especially chilly. Then Friday actually looks like a largely fine start for many. Still breezy for sure, but a lot of sunshine to be had first thing. More showers developing as we go through the day, coming in from the west and fairly frequent across parts of Scotland. Some winteriness mixed in over the higher ground too. Watch out as those showers could merge into some longer spells of rain at times, and temperatures around average, so not quite as high as they are today.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Right, it is 20 past 6 and it's time for the Daily Reflection.
The GB News Daily Reflection.
Hi, I'm Mike, a minister in the Church of England. They say that if power corrupts, then absolute power corrupts absolutely. It's why our democracies build in checks and balances, because history and the oppression suffered by many even today shows us where total power leads. But what if there were someone with total authority who was capable of wielding it in total love and service? That is Jesus Christ. He claims all authority in heaven and earth. He stills storms, heals the sick, raises the dead. Yet when the crowds gather to crown him in pomp and ceremony, he slips away, taking instead a crown of thorns. Here in Jesus is majesty expressed in meekness. The Almighty Creator stoops to wash the feet of his creatures and gives his life for the very ones who reject him. That's the glory of Christ. Absolute power wielded in absolute love. And it leaves us with a question. How will we exercise the power that we have? Whether over our children, our employees, those who provide us with services, will we lord it over them? Or will we use that power to lift others up?
Now, do stay with us. Still to come, President Trump's son defends the US Russian envoy, Steve Witkoff. It's over leaked conversations with Russian officials. We're going to tell you more about that next.
Bold.
They are under no illusion.
Brave.
Are you a human trafficker?
Boundless. I've had enough of the nonsense, and I'm not afraid to say it.
Don't get this on the BBC.
Every weeknight, I tear through the headlines.
The smell of gasoline. Should we be worried about it?
From Westminster madness to cultural war chaos.
What I'm going to do now is they are throwing things out the car as we speak.
Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Patrick Christie's tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
5 hosts, 5 opinions, 5 fearless debates, 5 unfiltered takes on the day's news.
5 reasons not to be anywhere else on Saturday night.
This is the Saturday 5. You got me. You got me good there. Britain's biggest Saturday night TV show.
It's not a bad brand.
Yeah. Uncensored.
Very, very racy tonight.
On the unpredictable.
What does she say? Can you translate it for us?
And always entertaining.
And how can a country go from being led by William Wallace Saturday nights from 6 p.m. only on GB News, the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
You're going to want to stay tuned, trust me.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m. only on GB News.
Welcome back. Now, the US President Donald Trump is defending his special envoy. It's after a leaked recording appeared to show Steve Witkoff advising a senior Russian official on how to appeal directly to the president.
Well, President Trump says he hasn't heard the audio, but insists Mr Witkoff was simply doing what a deal-maker does, as the US tries to sell its revised peace plan to both sides.
Well, let's get the thoughts of defence editor for the Evening Standard, Robert Fox. Very good morning to you, Robert. What do you make of all of this?
Oh, good morning. I think it's the usual go-round, but deadlines have slipped. Remember, today was the day when, for Thanksgiving, that Trump wanted the deal done. He said at one point, typically over-egging the pudding, said he wanted it signed by today. Well, we've got envoys running all over the place. We've got Mr. Witkoff, as you named in the introduction, going off to see his friends in Moscow. No shame after this rather embarrassing interview was released by Bloomberg. And Dan Driscoll, the Army Secretary, is going to Kiev to talk to the Zelensky team. I think we're a long way off a deal because rather ominously, whether it was Putin himself or somebody, as they say, close to him, said yesterday they see the fighting going on till Christmas at least.
Look, the coalition of the willing, as it were, seems to have been a bit of a damp squib up until now. Would we be in the position we're in if Europe hadn't pushed back against this?
I think Europe's actually played its part in this in saying this isn't working. And I think that the combination of the NATO Secretariat under Rutte and Ursula von der Leyen and they want Britain in there as well. And it was the quartet now of Britain, France, Germany, and interestingly, because of Giorgia Meloni's role and personal take with, and it has a personal contact with Putin, they've got Italy in there. And they've said, look, if you want, this has got to be negotiated, and you can't just negotiate between Team Trump and Team Putin. You've got to have Ukraine in it.
Robert, where do you think things stand right now in terms of the peace plan?
Well, I think it's not what the Americans wanted, because it's very interesting what Trump said in support of Witkoff, that, this is the way you make a deal. And when you look at the original 28-point plan, there was a lot of property and money being talked about. not necessarily between Witkoff and Ushakov, who is a foreign affairs advisor to Putin and a really hard man, but with him and Dmitriev, who is the new kid on the block, much the youngest member of the team. He's only 50. Kirill Dmitriev obviously talked through, well, just the three of them, apparently, with Kushner, the son-in-law of Trump, and with Witkoff. They came up with this 28-point plan over a huddle in Florida, and it's all about 6 or 7 clauses are about money, and money being paid to America for brokering the deal and possible investments in hydrocarbons, the Arctic. And we know Witkoff himself has a great deal of personal interest in it, as does have Dmitriev. So it's come back from that, and as watered down, I don't think it makes Moscow happy. They have not said that they accept it, and they've come up with a load of old grievances as well. You hadn't stood by agreements in the past, particularly the 2 Minsk agreements, which was broken by Europe. Nonsense, it wasn't. It was actually broken by local militias in the Donbass, and above all by the Russians. I think it's situation normal and a bit of a snafu. I think this will go on for some time. There'll be a lot more talking, but particularly when the hard men behind Putin, like Lavrov, the foreign minister, come in, they say no change. We want to go back to root causes. The fighting goes on, and I think the fighting goes on for a very simple reason, that there is nothing on the battlefield, not even at Pokrovsk, that Putin can declare as the great victory he wants to put before the Russian people.
OK. Robert, for now, thank you very much indeed. Appreciate it. I mean, it's a bit of a depressing outcome, but perhaps no real surprise, sadly, on that one.
I mean, as Robert was saying there, they just haven't met their war aims, have they? I mean, Ukraine still exists as a sovereign country next door. Why would they agree to peace right now?
Well,
Russia, I mean, it wouldn't be in their interest, would it?
It doesn't look like, does it? OK, it's 6:31, and if you are heading to work or school this morning, here's your traffic and travel update.
Good morning. This is the latest AI travel news from gbnews.com. Today, flooding has impacted the A78 northbound at Kip Marina, causing restrictions. As a result, drivers should plan alternate routes. On the A55 Britannia Bridge, a speed limit of 30 miles per hour remains in place until further notice. There is no further detail provided or expected resolution time for these traffic constraints. And on the trains, there is disruption affecting cross-country services between Bournemouth and Brockenhurst and Great Western Railway operations between Portsmouth Harbour and Cosham, causing potential delays on those routes. Stay informed, and for more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Now, there are only a few weeks left until Christmas, and time is running out for you to enjoy it all on us. £40,000 in tax-free cash, £1,000 to spend in your favourite supermarket on a wonderful Christmas lunch, and a GB News goodie bag. Here are all of the details that you need.
There's just 28 days until Christmas, and it's the final week to see how you can enjoy it on us. That's £30,000 in tax-free cash to make 2026 fantastic. A further £10,000 cash to spend on gifts for all the family, the tree and decorations. £1,000 in vouchers to buy a slap-up Christmas lunch at your favourite supermarket. And finally, a GB News Christmas goodie bag. Plus, we're going to get it all to you in time for the big day. For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB17 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 28th of November. The winner may be contacted live on GB News, week commencing the 8th of December. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Still to come, taxes may be rising, but migration is reportedly falling. We'll discuss that and more in the papers with Penny Smith and Christo Fufas. There they are, morning you too. But first, if you're in search of some holiday sun, here's the forecast across Europe.
Ready to soak up that holiday sunshine?
Won't we need some cover?
No worries. All sorted.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
There's some further heavy, thundery rain affecting parts of Eastern Europe as we go through the next few days, particularly Greece and Albania. But starting off further west, yes, some rain pushing into the far northwest of Spain, but actually ahead of that, tomorrow looks largely fine and dry. A few bits of rain across the southern parts of Italy, but as I mentioned, it's further east, Greece, Turkey, Albania, where we're going to see heavy rain building up. Some places could see 250 millimetres through this week, enough to cause some disruption.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
I'm Michelle Dewberry, this is Jubes & Co with you.
Hello everyone, Patrick Christie is here to GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Access the stories that matter to you. Take the GB News family with you on any device. And as long as you have an internet connection, tune in to GB News anywhere on the planet or beyond. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk then?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions, but every Friday night at 9 p.m. you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Right, let's go through the papers this morning with the broadcasters Penny Smith and Christo Fufas. Good morning to you both.
Morning.
Let's start with the budget. Christo, you just said you were fuming.
Well, you say good morning. It's not a good morning. I think it's an horrific morning, really, because I can't believe that, just from an ideological perspective, with what has been decided in this budget. And yes, she got away with it because the markets were so relieved that actually something was said after speculation for months. But I can't believe we live in a society now where if you are working, you're subsidising people who aren't. I can't believe we live in a society where every person I know has no more than 2 children, but if you are someone who is claiming universal credit and you have more than 2 children, well, then that's okay because you get more money as a result of that. But I think, for me, ideologically, the worst part of the budget was the mansion tax, because
Okay, a lot of people are going to say, look, it's £2 million. How many people is it going to affect? Well, actually, not that many, because the money it's going to raise is quite negligible.
All, yeah.
It's what it says about society. They're taxing wealth that you've not even realised yet in the price of your property. But also, what has it got to do with the government? You've paid tax on the money buying the property. You've paid tax on the money that you've been using to pay off that property, and then they come along and they say, well, actually, no, we want more based on what we think it might be worth, even though you haven't realised that yet. And how long will it be until that 2 million becomes 1.5 million, becomes 1 million, and before we have a tax on equity? I can see an equity tax coming where you have £200,000 in your house, and they say, right, we actually want a monthly tax because of that money that you've got.
If you look at the other side of this, though, Christo, I mean, unless you have taxes, then we don't have free education. We have to pay for the National Health Service. We have to pay for all these things. And I agree with, you know, there are... I thought the interesting thing was The Sun has got the headline that I think you were alluding to there, strivers pay for skivers. Now, not everybody is a skiver who gets benefits. Let's just say that first. And actually, if you choose to have more children, let's face it, I need somebody to have children to look after me in my old age, because I'm assuming I'm going into a home at some stage. So we've got all those things to pay for. Where's it going to come from? And I know what you're saying about mansion tax, and it does affect people in the big cities, particularly London, particularly places like Manchester, maybe Leeds. Those big cities where you've got houses which are worth a bit more money because there are fewer of them around. But the other way of looking at it is the fact that for an awful lot of people in those houses, they bought them for so much less. And that is kind of unearned income, if you like.
Well, except it doesn't necessarily
I know
mean
it doesn't.
You've got the free cash to pay the extra charges.
It doesn't mean that. It doesn't mean that. But at the same time, there is part of me thinks, you know, if you're talking about a fair... most taxes, you can get away with a tax if it seems a bit fairer. So what they've got to do is clamp down on the skivers so that actually we feel like we're paying for them. We've got to get this money from somewhere, or we end up in a place, the sort of places that we go to perhaps on holiday, where the rubbish doesn't get collected, where things don't happen.
Well, firstly, I would say that the government would get that money. If they leave that house to someone, they're going to get it via inheritance tax. This is on top of the inheritance tax because it would come, you know, you can defer it till you sell the house. Secondly, you know, as I said, you're quite right. If someone's inherited that house or someone's lived in that house for a long time and they've got a little bit of unearned income in that house, I'd say good luck to you. Brilliant. You know, how amazing. You know, I can't stand the fact in this country that there might be a little bit of unearned income somewhere from someone who's worked hard to buy a house, and the government can't stand it and really want to get their hands on it. I just think they'll get their pound of flesh. They'll get it from inheritance tax. They would have got it from stamp duty. When that house is sold, the next people, if it's worth £2 million, will pay more stamp duty on it.
See, I do think that they could have got rid of stamp duty because everybody hates stamp duty. It means that nobody... It means that it stymies the housing market so that people don't move, and we need a mobile workforce.
And they've not brought...
even more.
Yes, I know. And also with this one, I think the problem will be that the people who own buildings or whatever, just below that, or thinking, you know, below that, will probably try and sell those, possibly at a lower... just to try and... So it's going to skew everything. But this is for so few people in the cities and everything that I do wonder whether the rest of the country is going to care that much.
Yeah, I agree. And I was arguing about this last night on X, which is, you know, like pushing custard up a hill. And they were, you know, so many people were like, yeah, this is great, and it really saddens me that that's where we are. Also, the other side of this as well, and it's the same with inheritance tax. They don't take an inflation away from that. You know, if you bought a house for £500,000 20 or 30 years ago, that's probably going to be £1.5 million today. That 500,000 was worth. But they'll tax you on that million. They won't tax you minus the inflation. And so you know they're taxing what they've taxed. So you're quite right, by the way, alluding to the papers. So many of them, you know, are saying all of this. The Mirror are positive, but the Mail, Strikeful Rage, the Telegraph, a red box of broken promises.
Well, hopefully we'll be able to chat to the Chancellor.
Let's hope so.
You never know your luck. But we'll also be chatting more with Penny and Christo, so don't go anywhere.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Britain's Newsroom, weekday mornings from 9:30.
Flossie, how do you think your peers would react if, from now on, they were never, ever allowed to bring their phone into school?
Well, I think the big thing is really, I mean, I went to school yesterday after obviously doing BBC News, and surprisingly to me, all of my friends were saying, look, we completely agree with you, you're so totally doing the right thing. Obviously, it is a very sensitive topic. You know, obviously I'm going to have people saying, stop what you're doing.
Don't take my phone away from me.
I would hate myself if I was, in primary, secondary school. But realistically, the thing is, now I'm coming to realise I really wish I just didn't have a phone.
Yeah.
I am addicted to my phone now, I will admit that. I really wish I wasn't. So hopefully as well, if phones are banned in secondary schools, parents usually buy them for secondary school because everyone gets them. So hopefully that will stagger, you know, when parents buy their kids' phones, which may break, you know, the level of addiction.
Yeah.
Because I feel like if I didn't have a phone, really wish I didn't, because, you know, I keep on saying to myself, where would I be now if I didn't have a phone?
You said that people are now talking to each other on the bus because your school has moved to a stricter ban.
So my school is now completely smartphone free on anywhere where the school has a duty of care. So. Yeah, it was really surprising to see kids, you know, talking and chatting while
because normally they would text each other or they'd be on the
staring at their phones.
Extraordinary, isn't it?
Well, I do hope you're very successful because it's such an important campaign. Will, Ewing and Flossie, thank you so much. Yeah.
Why can't they just take a stand? They've done it in Australia.
It might help with the
They've done it in Australia.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, though.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
We're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. We're going through the papers in the company of Penny Smith and Christo Fufas. And Penny, we're talking about Rachel Reeves and whether her days are numbered. And the Star has gone with her favourite lettuce.
I know, that favourite lettuce. You even wonder if it's the same lettuce. So the Daily Star had one of the most successful campaigns, I think, in the world. It went worldwide, which was when Liz Truss was there, and they had a picture of a lettuce, which generally got more and more sort of Liz Truss-like in terms of glasses and various other things. And then, and it was who's going to last longer, Liz Truss or the lettuce? Well, now we've got the lettuce back again, the iceberg, lovely iceberg lettuce, and the SS Titanic Grinch. And it's got a picture of Rachel Reeves and Keir Starmer in that pose at the front of the ship. And the headline, Lettuce, Reeves, Iceberg Budget. And I just thought it was one of those things where I like looking at headlines. I still do salute certain headlines or certain campaigns, and I do think that the lettuce was one of the greats.
But I think there is a really interesting point behind the lettuce, and that is that we would.
There's a sentence you never thought you'd say.
But it was you were covering that a bit this morning about who was the audience for this, and her and Keir Starmer having sort of perhaps a lettuce in the back of their heads, thinking about how long they will last. You know, when you have a government that is supposed to have a majority, the front bench is supposed to control the back bench, not vice versa.
Well, it's bided them some time, hasn't it? Because it went down. Yeah. Well, it was a hoot, wasn't it, for the backbenchers? They raised the roof.
Whereas
spoke about lifting the two-child benefit cap.
Yeah, and that's precisely the opposite of what they should be keeping them in line. They shouldn't have it the other way round, especially with the majority that they've got. So it seems...
It is the tail wagging the dog at the moment.
But, Christo, that's always been the case, hasn't it? I mean, look at...
Not with Thatcher.
Well, David Cameron, though. Look at David Cameron and his backbenchers and that.
But David Cameron was only in Cameron's government, and again in 1979 during when Thatcher was elected. Those are the only 2 times where a reduction in public spending has been put in the manifesto and has been implemented and it has been voted for. No one voted in the manifesto, and actually a red box of broken promises is what the Telegraph is saying today on the front page, because they're literally relying on semantics, saying, well, actually we've not put up taxes on working people because we're keeping the thresholds the same. When, I mean, everyone knows, even the lettuce knows that actually more and more people are going to end up in these tax thresholds. That's more taxes on working people. What even is a working person? Well, I'll tell you what it is. It's the person paying for all of the benefit handouts that they've spent a fortune on. It's a depressing day.
Wouldn't it have been interesting, though? I mean, I know we can't, but wouldn't it have been interesting to go back to the time of Margaret Thatcher and put a whole load of social media in there? See what...
it's a different world.
That's what I mean. It's such a different world.
I mean, things have changed dramatically since then, but it is the idea that the main audience for this were the backbenchers, Labour backbenchers, just so they get the bill through.
And where was the growth? Where were the incentives for growth? If you were a younger person today, where is the incentive to say, right, do you know what? I want to go out and start a business. I want to aspire to do well.
I think that's the national insurance hike, though. That was what did for that. I was just wondering if we could just very briefly touch on migration, or are you...
no.
I know you're waiting.
We are waiting for the Chancellor, and she's very, very nearly ready.
Oh, really? Right. In that case, we absolutely won't, no.
It's probably not worth diverging from the budget.
Should we stick on the idea of growth, though? Because where was that yesterday, Penny? I mean, it's meant to be the central mission of this...
Well, I don't know. I think the growth, as we were talking during the break there, I think the growth seems to be coming from public sector rather than anything else. There seem to be more and more people working in the public sector with their... I think there are so many people who are probably feeling a bit like, the child going past a kind of shop front full of buns and everything and saying, I want that, is because their copper-bottomed pension... I know not everybody thinks about their pension, but we should. And that is just... It's so galling thinking, if only I'd gone and worked in the civil service or whatever.
And I would have been given a massive pay rise with absolutely no productivity caveats on that.
No, exactly.
That pay rise, which is also absolutely
Well, this is what I don't understand with
be as slack as you
our
like.
pensions at the moment, is that there seems to be a less of an incentive for people to save into a pension or to save for anything, which then all that does is put a huge burden on the welfare state in years.
Yes, and they're going to penalise you for trying to take the responsibility, take the burden off. You're quite right. And what does it say about us? We mentioned the word aspiration. We are a country of aspiration. We're a country where you're supposed to play.
To Margaret Thatcher.
You're supposed to play by the rules. I'm going to try and save for a mortgage. I'm going to try and work hard. I'm going to try and put some money aside for a rainy day, and we've lost all of that.
OK. Penny, Christo, thank you very much indeed.
Well, thankfully, Rachel Reeves, Chancellor of the Exchequer, is ready to go. Good to see you this morning. We appreciate your time. The OBR says taxes are going to go to an all-time high as a result of your budget, 38% of national income, and the economy is going to grow at a slower rate than expected. I mean, that's hugely disappointing.
Well, the OBR forecast in the spring that our economy would grow by just 1% this year, and yesterday they revised up that forecast to 1.5%. So we've defied the forecasts this year, and I'm determined to defy them next year and the year after as well. But you're right that the forecasts for future years have been revised down. They're very clear that reflects their verdict on productivity under the past Conservative government. The Conservative legacy does not need to be Britain's destiny, and I'm determined to beat those forecasts again, as I have this year.
Chancellor, in the budget last year, you raised £40 billion in taxes. You described it as a once-in-a-parliament budget. You promised that you wouldn't come back for more tax increases. You've broken that promise, haven't you? Because you've come back this year for £26 billion in taxes. The tax burden now the highest it's been in modern history. So when you made those promises not to raise taxes again, were you being naive or were you not being honest?
Well, I'm Chancellor in the world as it is, not in the world as I might like it to be. Last year I had to fill a black hole left to me by the previous Conservative government. Everyone knew that the public finances and public services were in a mess, but I don't think anybody fully comprehended the full extent of it until I got into the Treasury and was able to see the books. This year, the OBR have decided to do a review of UK productivity over the last 14 years, and they point to a number of things, including the pandemic and Brexit, and frankly the chaos of the last few years under the Tories, and they've made their revisions. But I'm going to beat those forecasts. I've beaten them this year, I'll beat them again. But in the meantime, I've got to live within those forecasts, because we saw what happened when the previous government under Liz Truss lost control of the public finances. Interest rates went through the roof, inflation went through the roof, pensions were put in peril, and I'm not going to take those risks with family finances because it caused a huge amount of damage. So I did have to increase taxes yesterday, but I've kept them to an absolute minimum on ordinary working people, freezing those thresholds for an additional 3 years from 2028. I do recognise that will have an impact on working people, but from April next year, everyone is going to get £150 off of their energy bills, alongside the freeze in prescription charges, the freeze in rail fares, the first time that's happened in 30 years, on top of things like rolling out free childcare for parents of preschool children. All of those things will help people with the cost of living. And of course, as well, yesterday I was able to announce a substantial increase in the basic state pension and the new state pension. The new state pension going up by £575 a year from April next year. So more money in people's pockets, whether those are working families or indeed pensioners.
Yeah, and the two-child benefit cap going. I mean, there were plenty of handouts yesterday for some people in society, but none of that is going to really be affordable unless we can stimulate growth. What was there in the budget yesterday that is going to significantly stimulate growth in Britain?
Yeah, well, look, there was a massive package yesterday for entrepreneurs, and half of jobs being created in Britain at the moment are by those scale-up businesses. And what I announced yesterday was making it easier for those businesses to start up, to scale up and stay in Britain, with changes to the different schemes to enable them to offer tax-free shares to their employees, to give them a break from stamp duty on shares if they list in the UK, because I want these jobs to be created here in Britain. We also are recommitted to building stuff in Britain, whether that is steel made in Britain, ships made in Britain, and yesterday saying that we would focus investment in AI in government procurement for stuff made here in Britain. And I made reforms yesterday as well to Motability. And what people noticed yesterday was that we're taking luxury cars out of the Motability scheme, saving over £1 billion in the next few years. But also what I did yesterday is a deal with Motability that more of the cars for disabled people, leased to disabled people, will be cars built here in Britain. Because when we spend money as a government, I want that money to go into British jobs, British supply chains, supporting our economy.
In yesterday's budget, you created headroom to please the markets. You gave away £16 billion worth in benefits to please your backbenchers. You lifted the two-child benefit cap to please your backbenchers after saying last year that it was unaffordable. So it does beg the question, doesn't it? Who is running the country? Is it the government? Is it the markets? Or is it Labour backbenchers?
I am in charge of economic policy. This was my budget, focused on my priorities, cutting the cost of living, cutting NHS waiting lists and cutting debt and borrowing. And I achieved those things in my budget, my second budget as Chancellor of the Exchequer yesterday. I'm determined to grow our economy, put more money in working people's pockets and ensure that when people phone up a doctor to have an appointment, when they're on a hospital waiting list, they actually get seen. And I protected money in our NHS yesterday, as well as rolling out 250 more neighbourhood health centres so people can be treated closer to home in our National Health Service.
I know he's not your favourite person, but Nigel Farage made a very good point yesterday, didn't he, when he said this is an assault on aspiration and an assault on savings. I mean, what for us everyday people, what is the point in us saving for our pensions? Or what is the point of us saving for a rainy day? Because it just seems if we do that, if we sacrifice now to save for tomorrow, we're just getting penalised for it.
Well, it's good that we heard from Nigel Farage yesterday. Still waiting to hear from Nigel Farage about what he's going to do about ensuring that we don't have more traitors in his party. The leader of the Reform Party in Wales is now in prison for 10 years for betraying his country. Nigel Farage hasn't got very much to say about that, has he? And when it comes to aspiration, this government are backing aspiration. That's why yesterday we backed our founders, we backed our entrepreneurs with a significant package, and it's why we saw the stock market go up yesterday, because this government are backing Britain.
Yeah, but what about us? What about the people watching and listening to this now who say, you know, well, if we save for our pension, I mean, you're not going to be able to do it significantly through salary sacrifice anymore, but if you save for your pension, it just seems to be being hit. It's all being taxed more. We can't invest in property and try and work our way up through the property market because you're going to be hit by a mansion tax. What is the benefit of people striving to do better, to look after themselves in their older age?
Well, on pensions tax relief, we have pensions tax relief worth around £70 billion a year. We are restricting salary sacrifice, which was never supposed to be the main vehicle for saving for retirement. We already have generous pensions tax relief, and we're not changing that at all, and we are not changing access to the lump sum tax-free. We are restricting from 2029 access to salary sacrifice, but you can still put £2,000 in a year to top up your pension with no changes whatsoever. But after that, employer national insurance will apply. I think that is the right and the fair balance. It is important that we get that balance right, but I was able to keep taxes to an absolute minimum on working people yesterday by asking those people that live in properties worth more than £2 million to pay a bit more. You know, and GB News viewers know that if you've got a semi in Darlington or Sunderland, you pay more council tax than if you've got a £5 million property in Mayfair. That is not right. It shouldn't be the case that you pay more on a semi in Sunderland than you do on a mansion in Mayfair, and that's why we've introduced a high-value council tax surcharge. I think it is fair and proportionate to ask those in the most expensive properties to pay a bit more so that we don't have to whack up the rates of income tax and national insurance or VAT that working people pay.
OK, Chancellor, we are out of time with you, but thank you very much for joining us this morning on GB News Breakfast.
Thanks very much.
Well, good morning. Taxes are lifted to a record high. Rachel Reeves reveals a budget with businesses, workers and savers paying the price.
Well, tax thresholds are frozen for an additional 3 years, and the OBR is warning of low growth. Is the country being plunged into an economic doom loop?
Yet to see a credible or a fairer alternative plan for working people. These are my choices, the right choices for a fairer, a stronger and more secure Britain.
Well, the Chancellor defends her budget, but having said at the last one she wouldn't come back for more, Yesterday, she didn't rule it out.
So has the Chancellor made Britain's economic woes even worse?
Well, the Chancellor has kept her own backbench MPs happy and the markets calm, but £67 billion of tax rises over the last two budgets from a government that said they would not raise taxes on working people. What do you think?
Rachel Reeves wants ordinary people to pay just a little bit more, including on milkshakes. We'll be hearing Sal Shields speaking to working families shortly.
Is it time to say goodbye to the one-in, one-out scheme? Research shows the government's partial migrants returns deal has deterred channel crossings at a lower rate than the Rwanda scheme, which, of course, officially never started.
President Trump's son defends US Russian envoy Steve Witkoff. It's over leaked conversations which appear to show him coaching Russian officials on how to handle the US president.
And in sport this morning, well, it's the good, the bad and the ugly for English teams in the Champions League last night. The good is Arsenal win again, this time against the mighty Bayern Munich. Bad for Spurs as they concede 5 goals in Paris, although they did score 3. And ugly, Liverpool get thrashed at home by PSV Eindhoven on their worst run in 71 years.
It's a much milder day today for sure, but also quite cloudy and there's some rain around and strengthening winds, especially across parts of Scotland. Stick around to find out more.
It is 7:05. I'm Stephen Dixon.
I'm Ellie Costello and this is GB News Breakfast.
Well, we're going to crack straight on because obviously we're overrunning slightly after chatting to the Chancellor, Rachel Reeves, that crossed over the top of the hour, and she finally delivered her budget yesterday after months of gruelling anticipation.
To break the cycle of austerity, we need a fair and a sustainable tax system. That does mean that today I am asking everyone to make a contribution.
But of course, the drama began before Rachel Reeves even reached the dispatch box.
A leaked report from the Office for Budget Responsibility overshadowed her announcement. And of course, it sparked fury across Westminster.
This is deeply disappointing and a serious error on their part. The Office for Budget Responsibility have already made a statement taking full responsibility for their breach.
Well, the Conservative leader, Kemi Badenoch, has demanded that Rachel Reeves resigns, accusing the Chancellor of losing control.
It tells you everything you need to know about her grip on the Treasury. She's making the UK a shambolic laughingstock to international investors, and if she doesn't resign for breaking her promises, she should sure as hell go for this.
Yeah, so as we look through what the budget is going to actually mean for us, are the Chancellor's days numbered? Well, who knows? Well,
let's speak now to the Lib Dems, the Home Affairs spokesperson, Max Wilkinson. Very good morning to you, Mr Wilkinson. What did you make of the budget yesterday?
Morning. Well, yesterday I think we'd all heard quite a lot of what was in the budget already, even before the botched early release from the OBR of their report, which the Chancellor was just talking about. But this morning we're all waking up, aren't we, and just thinking taxes are going up to record levels, public services aren't getting any better. And the government is ignoring the elephant in the room here, which is that having blown up our biggest trading relationship with Europe, the previous government caused lots of problems. The government has now said that that's caused lots of problems. But they're a bit like if you went down to your local pub and ordered a lovely roast dinner with all the trimmings, and then the landlord just threw you a packet of Haribo and said, have that for lunch instead. They're ignoring the big problem here and they're giving us what we don't need and what we haven't asked for.
What is the big problem? I mean, because I'm looking at the press release we've had from the Liberal Democrats saying the government has chosen to reject the biggest single thing it could do to turbocharge economic growth. It doesn't tell us what that is.
It could restore our trading relationship with Europe. At the moment, we've got a £90 billion per year Brexit black hole in the public finances, and were we to have a trade deal, which the Liberal Democrats are suggesting, which is within the government's own red lines, which they've set for themselves, unwisely, many people would say, you could restore about £25 billion worth of revenue to our economy. That would mean, basically, that all of the difficult choices that the Chancellor is saying she's having to make about tax tax rises probably wouldn't need to happen. This is the obvious thing to do. It's the pragmatic thing to do to make sure that we are all feeling better off, and it would have given the Chancellor much less of a headache. But for some reason...
So the Liberal Democrat Party would, in effect, say the answer to all of this is to, in essence, ignore the biggest democratic vote in our country's history and basically just go back to how things were before.
What we're suggesting is rejoining the customs union and having a much deeper trade deal with the European Union. About half of our trade is still with the European Union, and there are loads of businesses all around the country, including in my constituency, who trade with Europe, who tell me that the barriers that have been put in place mean that all of the things that we're buying that are imported are more expensive, and the things that we're selling to Europe are less competitive as a result. What we need to do is make sure that we're restoring the competitive elements that we had before in our economy. And that will make us all better off, and it will mean that the Chancellor's tough choices that she was making on things like tax yesterday wouldn't need to happen. But of course we have suggested some other things that could happen as well. You could put up capital gains tax on the 0.1% wealthiest people, and that would raise around £3 billion. What the government's saying on the mansion tax, for example, is only about 400 million, a drop in the ocean really, and just a rounding error in the national accounts.
Kemi Badenoch was describing the budget yesterday as a giveaway for Benefit Street, and Nigel Farage was describing it as an assault on aspiration. Would you agree with those assessments?
Regardless of that, Nigel Farage and Kemi Badenoch gave us the failed Brexit deal, which means that the Chancellor's having to make these choices in the first place. So I think whatever they say, we can take with a pinch of salt.
Heck, I mean, look, come on. You can't blame everything on Brexit. Or even if you do want to blame everything on Brexit, what you've got to do is understand it was the will of the people at the time.
Whether we were in the customs union or not was not on the ballot paper back in 2016, and lots has changed since then.
It was discussed ad infinitum, and you know as well as I do that if you say, well, let's go back into the customs union, let's have a bigger trade deal with Europe, they don't just say yes, they don't just have... It would come with so many caveats that actually it would be like, certainly in part, reversing Brexit.
Not at all, and there may be very good arguments for all kinds of reversals in the future. At the moment, what we're suggesting is because of the real problems that our economy is suffering, many of them as a result of Brexit, the thing that we ought to be doing is looking to Europe for a new trade deal, which would bring in about £25 billion worth of revenue per year, which would negate many of the problems that the government is trying to deal with now. It's bizarre that the government is saying belatedly that Brexit has caused problems, but that they are unwilling to do anything to solve those problems. That's a dereliction of duty on the part of the Labour Party, and Kemi Badenoch and Nigel Farage knocking about yesterday, telling us about all the things that they would do differently, are living in la-la land.
OK, Max Wilkinson, thank you for your time.
Well, let's speak now to our political correspondent, Catherine Forster, who's in the studio with us. And should we talk about the Chancellor, who we spoke to at the top of the hour? What did you make of what she had to say, defending her budget?
Well, yes, I was very struck by your question, Ellie, who is running the country. Is it the bond market? Is it backbench Labour MPs? And she said, I am in charge of economic policy. But we know that she's lifted the two-child benefit cap in full, something she did not want to do, something she resisted, something that she previously said was unaffordable. We know that this budget has largely been about self-preservation for herself and the Prime Minister, at least through to next May, because Labour MPs were so deeply unhappy. Now, I spoke to several yesterday who are feeling much better about the whole thing. But look, this government promised very limited, I think about £8.5 billion of tax rises before the general election. It was all going to come from growth. Then they came in, talked about a Tory black hole, put up taxes by 40 billion, said they'd never need to do it again. And now £26 billion of tax rises. And these are choices, because for all the productivity downgrades that she's talking about, in fact, because of inflation and tax receipts, things were better than they had expected. And the threshold freezes that are going to hit millions of people, and that is a big tax rise, working people, that's worth about £8 billion a year. Now, the welfare U-turn of the £5 billion they wanted to save, but backbench MPs wouldn't tolerate. That's £5 billion there. The two-child benefit is £3 billion. Taken together, £8 billion, the same as the tax freezes. So, you know, the Conservatives say this is a budget for Benefit Street. They are taxing workers and that money is going on benefit payments. You know, I think that is self-evident, and
that doesn't stimulate growth.
It doesn't stimulate growth. The growth projections are 1.5%, pretty flat, and living standards are barely predicted to move at all.
OK. Catherine, thank you very much.
Let's see what Charlie Rowley, the political commentator, makes of it all. Morning, Charlie. I mean, we can talk ad infinitum about what Rachel Reeves has done. I've got to ask you, though, about what... I mean, because it's what the opposition parties say. I mean, Tories say it's raising taxes to spend more on benefits. Nigel Farage and Reform say it's an assault on aspiration. The Lib Dems, just spoken to, just said, well, basically, it's all down to Brexit. I mean, I was a little bit stunned. Well, to be honest.
Yes, I mean, some soul-searching probably needs to go back at Lib Dem HQ about what that actually means. If you even dare to dream about rejoining the EU, you're absolutely right. The caveats that they would put on the UK, we would never have the same
We'd be punished,
deal.
yeah.
We'd be absolutely punished. And not to mention that actually as part of a growth strategy, it's about getting trade deals. And this has been the problem, again, with the Labour government. You've got to make up your mind. If you can either be you can't have your cake and eat it. So you can't say, right, Brexit has been a terrible thing for the economy, whilst at the same time saying and heralding trade deals with the US and India, things that you would never have got had you not been, had you still been in the EU. So they've got to make up their mind what they want. But ultimately, this is about what voters will think. And when they wake up this morning and realise that they've been dragged into higher taxes, if you're a working person, something said that the government who were never going to be taxed, they're now being taxed. Where there have been no changes to welfare spending. I'm all for having a debate about the two-child benefit cap. If it raises a number of kids, 450,000 out of child poverty, I don't think that on its own is a bad thing. But at the same time of allowing people just to sign on because they've got a little bit of anxiety here and there, when the welfare budget at the end of this Parliament is to be about £400 billion, that's the same amount that this government had to borrow for COVID, a global pandemic, and we're just spending that money on welfare payments, or the welfare budget as a whole, that is unsustainable. So there were no changes internally about those budgets. She trimmed a bit of fat by getting rid of police and crime commissioners and a bit of local government, raising a few odd taxes here and there, but those taxes are not going to stimulate growth as the OBR has predicted. And when growth should be central, as the government told us it would be, to their plan to growing the economy and dealing with all the debts and the problems that we've got, growth is predicted by the OBR every year to go down. That is not progress. That is not an economy that seems to be firing on all cylinders to grow, to make us feel as wealthy as we possibly can be. And we're going to be worse off than we were in 2008 before the financial crash. Again, as set out by the OBR, it is a mess.
Can we just briefly reflect on the mess that was yesterday? I mean, there's never been a chaotic budget like it. I mean, we had the briefing and the leaking for weeks ahead. We had that strange press conference a few weeks ago in the middle of the breakfast show where we were talking about potentially raising income tax, but then rode back on that 3 days later. And then we had the OBR publishing the budget in full yesterday before the Chancellor even got to the dispatch box.
You're right. And look, you know, I'm a human being and a bit of a softie at times, and you can at times want to feel sorry maybe for a Chancellor that seems to be having all these leaks left, right and centre, some of her own making, I dare say, you know, number 11 staff wanting to get ahead to test public opinion before they actually make a final decision. That does all go on. So I won't be too sympathetic about some of the leaking. Of course, the OBR publishing all of the findings ahead of her statement. That is incredibly unfortunate. And, you know, her general position where, you know, she is under pressure, you've got to feel sorry for somebody in that position. But when it's a mess of your own making, and when you start pointing the finger at everybody else and putting it down to mansplaining, I thought Kemi Badenoch was excellent yesterday.
Woman to woman.
Woman to woman, I'm going to tell you, woman to woman. You know, and she really gave it to the Chancellor. You know, but then when you wake up this morning and you see what has actually happened, that taxes on working people have gone up, something they said they were never going to do. That's income tax. Your national insurance, businesses that employ young people, that give young people their first shot in life, who might not have had experience anywhere else. Those employees are waking up this morning, looking at their books, looking at their their headroom? Can they employ another young person to get into the jobs market for the first time? Can they maintain and retain their staff that they currently have? Do they have to lay people off in order to make sure that they're hitting those increases in taxes? Those are the real choices that business people are going to have to be making. Those are the real choices that are going to affect young people in employment. People that have been hit by pensions this morning, people who are working every hour at the haulage companies, and people, the van drivers who are going to see their fuel duty come off next year, I think it is now. So fuel duty is going to go up. Taxes are going up. Inflation is still high. The cost of living is there. This is not a budget that was for working people. This was a typical, as they told us, Labour budget. More tax, more spend, more debt, ultimately more borrowing on the backs of working people, and the future generations are going to have to pick this up.
All right. Charlie, thank you. Shall we see what business journalist and finance commentator Ian King makes of it all? Morning again, Ian. Maybe not a budget for working people. Is it a budget that the markets liked?
Well, markets actually did quite like it. Rachel Reeves referenced the performance of the stock market in her interview with you, Stephen. European stock markets went up across the board yesterday, and actually the FTSE 100 rose by marginally less than the Stoxx 600, which is the main European stock index. So markets everywhere, a rising tide floats all boats. I wouldn't read too much into that, and we've discussed earlier on some of the risers and fallers. As I say, the main points of interest really for me were the gilt market, UK government bonds. You saw the biggest drop in UK government gilt yields, which is implied borrowing costs of any fiscal event since 2006.
That makes it cheaper for us to borrow?
Yes. So, as I say, it's implied government borrowing costs. So the market quite like that. That was a big tick for Rachel Reeves. That is something that's gone down pretty well. Sterling responded relatively favourably as well. I wouldn't put too much credence on that because the market, without wishing to go too technical on, a lot of people were short sterling going into the budget. In other words, they'd been selling it. So there was a rally there, which I think was people closing their positions, essentially. Just want to come back to something that you were discussing earlier on the OBR forecasts. And Charlie mentioned the back down, that weird press conference that Rachel Reeves gave the week before last. We were briefed there, Bloomberg were briefed, that the reason that she changed her mind was because the OBR forecasts had come in better than expected and that accordingly she wouldn't have to raise income tax. That's actually not true. It's in the OBR report. The OBR says it sets out dates of when it gave the Chancellor its forecasts. There were no revisions to its forecasts after the 31st of October. And you'll recall it was after that Rachel Reeves did her pitch rolling for suggesting that there were going to be income tax rises.
And then had to plough back, as Kemi Badenoch said yesterday.
So the notion, as I say, this was briefed to Bloomberg and all of us in the media followed it, that this was because the OBR forecasts had come in better than expected. That's not what the OBR report tells you. The implication is that she changed her mind on that because Labour MPs said you cannot raise interest rates, you cannot breach this manifesto commitment. So,
which again boils down to this sort of discussion we've been having of the tail wagging the dog, when it comes to which she denied, of course, in the interview. But I mean, how's that going to go down long? If that is the general sense that the government is being hampered by the backbenchers rather than the other way round, how does that play out in terms of market confidence and business confidence?
Well, it is a narrative that the government would do well to try and stop from taking hold, because the markets are under are certainly of the view that the Parliamentary Labour Party is to the left of Rachel Reeves and Keir Starmer. And, there was that famous incident where Rachel Reeves was tearful on the front bench during PMQs a few months ago, and the market reacted very, very badly to that. And that was partly because I think they felt that there was going to be someone...
Well, it's confidence, isn't it? It's lack of confidence.
But it was also the notion that if you don't get Rachel Reeves as Chancellor, who do you get in? I mean, as I say, she won the confidence of the bond market. At the end of the day, bond markets essentially... They want to know whether they're going to get their money back. They want to know that the UK government is good to pay its debts and service its debts. And she squared that off yesterday. That was as I say, that was a big tick. And I think that incident back in the summer where she was tearful on the front bench actually strengthened her position, because I think it brought home to some Labour MPs, crikey, the markets will seriously have an adverse reaction to someone else. And I think that, I mean, that's been a real interesting sort of saga that's played out. You know, we've been told that there are all these Labour MPs who've had teach-ins with various figures saying, right, this is why it's important to keep the markets on side. You know, we had that famous quote from Andy Burnham, you know, I've had enough of us being in hock to the bond markets. Well, the easiest way of not being in hock to the bond markets is not to borrow so much money from them.
Well,
that's a very
that would
fair
be a good
point.
start.
All right, Ian, thanks very much indeed.
Now, as always, you can get involved in the programme. Friends of GB News can vote in today's You Decide poll. All you need to do is scan the QR code, which is on your screen now. Today's question is...
Oh, sorry, is this my go?
It is.
What's the Chancellor right to cut the two-child benefit cap?
Yes.
Have we got any results as yet? No.
I think this is the first time I put it up, so do take part.
You might have been voting online. I don't know, but if you want to know how you could be impacted by the budget, again, you can go to gbnews.com. We've got our free budget calculator or another QR code on your screen.
We love a QR code.
You do. It's no good to you if you're listening on the radio, but then just go to gbnews.com instead. It'll take you there.
Now, at 24 minutes past 7, let's get a check on the weather.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Good morning, this is your GB News weather update from the Met Office. It's fair to say it's quite a bit milder than it was this time yesterday for many of us, and the milder theme's going to continue through today, but with that it's also going to be quite cloudy and a bit wet at times. We have some rain across northern and western areas at the moment, and a lot of that is going to filter a bit further east and southeast as we go through the day, but it's going to take quite a while to move through, so actually some parts of the southeast staying largely dry, at least through daylight hours. That is. Now, as I mentioned, it's mild, markedly milder than it was this time yesterday, and temperatures rising through the day. We're looking at highs around 13, 14 Celsius, so a fair few degrees above average for the time of year. But we do need to watch out for some strong blustery winds. Breezy for all of us, but the strongest winds will be across northern and western parts of Scotland as we go through this evening, and overnight gusts of 60 to 70, perhaps 75 miles per hour here. Also, plenty of showers across northern and western Scotland. Some of them could be quite heavy. A few showers across parts of Northern Ireland through this evening. Some clearer weather across much of northern England and Wales, but across central, southern, eastern England, it's a cloudy, damp end to the day, but eventually that rain is going to clear away towards the southeast around midnight time. I'm expecting it to clear away entirely. Otherwise then, clearer skies following in behind for most, but still plenty of showers towards the north and west. Still those strong winds to watch out for as well towards northwest Scotland. Temperatures not dropping as low as they have done through some recent nights. Despite the clear skies, that breeze will stop it from getting especially chilly. Then Friday actually looks like a largely fine start for many. Still breezy for sure, but a lot of sunshine to be had first thing. More showers developing as we go through the day, coming in from the west and fairly frequent across parts of Scotland. Some winteriness mixed in over the higher ground too. Watch out as those showers could merge into some longer spells of rain at times, and temperatures around average, so not quite as high as they are today.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Now, to stay with us still to come, the Chancellor says she's going to lift 450,000 children out of poverty by removing the two-child benefit cap. We're going to be talking about that next.
Bold. They are under no illusion. Ray. Are you a human trafficker? Boundless. I've had enough of the nonsense, and I'm not afraid to say it.
Don't get us on a BBC.
Every weeknight, I tear through the headlines.
The smell of gasoline. Should we be worried about it?
From Westminster madness to cultural war chaos.
What I'm going to do now, they are throwing things out the car as we speak.
Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Patrick Christie's tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
no,
isn't it?
No,
because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Britain was once the envy of the world, but look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m, only on GB News.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pearce.
And me, Miriam Gates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
7:30 now. In the budget yesterday, just to remind you, the Chancellor said she's lifting 450,000 children out of poverty by removing the two-child benefit cap.
So, how will families be affected by this? Let's speak to GB News reporter Bethany Elsey. Morning to you, Bethany.
Stephen, Ellie, good morning to you. Thanks for having me. We're here in South Shields, a region which is acutely hit by the cost of living crisis, which the Chancellor says she wants to do something about. Average households here in South Shields are well below the national average of income, in some areas by £10,000. So although things like the scrapping of the two-child benefit cap will help, as well as free school meals, I'm joined now by two working mums who can tell us just a little bit more about whether or not they're going to feel any better off. So is there anything in this budget that you think is actually going to help your day-to-day spends?
The scrapping of the two-child benefit cap is genuinely going to help with day-to-day costs for me. But kind of looking at other elements of the budget, it seems to be a drop in the pond when you compare the fact that the tax threshold frees any pay rises that I do get. We're not going to stretch any further. Personally, I work part-time. And this budget has no incentive for me to actually increase my hours once my children are all at school, for example. It's just not gonna make any difference to me, because by the time you consider the benefit taper, that's, you know, there's no financial incentive for me to work more, and it's just not really what I expected. I'm quite disappointed by the budget.
And what about yourself, Kat?
It's not really nothing what can really help me. I feel like more I'm struggle at the moment because I work full time and it's really complicated for me to like look after my child, be in the house, be full time as mom too, look after her, to go into all the after school clubs, and as I feel like I'm left, and it's like no helps for us. It's like the middle class could like be like missed. And I'm feeling like, yeah, it's like it's not much help for us at the moment.
Which is tricky to hear for the Chancellor, Rachel Reeves, you're literally her target audience. In South Shields, 1 in 5 families claim universal credit. 35% of those are in work. So there's this sense of in-work poverty, which both of you are experiencing. The free school meals should help slightly. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, but free school meals is definitely kind of one of the positives that does come from it. My eldest has just gone from the primary school into juniors, so we've just lost for free school meals, and I have noticed the impact of that. You know, I'm paying essentially an extra £70 a term to have her fed, and then when you consider I've got 2 more children who will be following her afterwards, that is a massive kind of dent in, you know, it's just all adds to these rising costs and inflation, and we're just trying to kind of scrape together and keep pennies in, and the cost of living just keeps going up.
Thank you both, Sophie and Kat, for joining me. Well, for a constituency that's been Labour voting for 90 years, the support for that party right now is a bit slim.
Bethany, thank you very much indeed. We will speak to you a little bit later on.
Thanks, Bethany. That's what GB News is all about, isn't it? Getting out and about, out the London bubble.
Yeah, it's
speaking
true.
to real people about how this all affects you.
I thought that was very interesting, though. That one lady saying, you know, well, yes, getting rid of the 2-child benefit cap is a benefit. It's going to help. However, where's the incentive to go from part-time to full-time? Everything else is, you know, it's going to be the impact is going to be very slim. So that's quite something.
Yeah, I mean, that's what Nigel Farage was saying, wasn't he? That it was an assault on aspiration. I mean, as that lady was putting it there, what's the incentive to work more, to do more hours at work? I mean,
yeah,
says it all, does it not? Let us know what you think. gbnews.com/your say. Lots of you getting in touch already. We will try and share some of those views throughout the programme.
Now, let's just tell you very quickly about the Great British Giveaway, because it's all for Christmas, and in fact, it runs out, this one, tomorrow.
Oh, does it?
Yeah.
You're always across the finishing dates of these things.
It's because I watch these very, very closely. It's 40 grand in tax-free cash, £1,000 to spend in your favourite supermarket, and a GB News goodie bag, and this is how you enter.
There's just 28 days until Christmas, and it's the final week to see how you can enjoy it on us. That's £30,000 in tax-free cash to make 2026 fantastic. A further £10,000 cash to spend on gifts for all the family, the tree and decorations. £1,000 in vouchers to buy a slap-up Christmas lunch at your favourite supermarket. And finally, a GB News Christmas goodie bag. Plus, we're going to get it all to you in time for that big day. For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB17 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 28th of November. The winner may be contacted live on GB News, week commencing the 8th of December. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Now, do stay with us, still to come. We're going to be going through the sports news with Paul. That's next.
Thank you so much for helping us to reach 8 million followers and subscribers across our social media channels. That's 8 million fearless Brits standing up for what really matters.
Good morning. This is the latest AI travel news from gbnews.com. The A78 northbound at Kip Marina is experiencing partial restrictions due to flooding. Additionally, the A55 at Britannia Bridge has imposed a speed limit of 30 miles per hour until further notice. Worcestershire's M5 northbound is currently handling a road traffic collision between Junction 6 and Junction 5, resulting in 3 out of 4 lanes being closed. Normal traffic conditions are expected to resume between 8 and 8:15 this morning. On the trains, disruptions are affecting Chiltern Railways between West Ruislip and Wembley Stadium, as well as cross-country services between Bournemouth and Brockenhurst. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience, because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions, but every Friday night at 9 p.m. you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
No,
Because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back,
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
and we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in a chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's political podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's political podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. It's sports time. Paul Coit is here with us. Morning.
Hello, Ellie.
How are you?
Hello, Stephen.
Hello.
When you walk through a storm, hold your head up high and don't be afraid of the dark. And at the end of the storm, there's a golden sky with the sweet silver song of the lark.
Oh, that sounds lovely.
Right.
That's You'll Never Walk Alone. But, unfortunately, Liverpool are in the eye of the storm at the moment, and there's no sound of a lark nearby. Because
You've been practicing that outside, that was very good.
It's all looking a little worrying, I've got to tell you. So Liverpool in the Champions League last night, they played PSV Eindhoven, and they lost 4-1. And PSV Eindhoven, Dutch side, do you remember we got PSV?
Yeah.
Is the Philips thing? And then as well.
Yes, yeah.
So they are no Ajax from the 1970s, let's be honest. But they were absolutely destroyed, Liverpool, last night, and Liverpool in all sorts of trouble. So third game in a row that Liverpool have lost by 3 goals, which is the first time in, funnily enough, 33 years. They've lost 9 in the last 12. It's their worst run since they were relegated in 1954. They're 12th in the Premier League, they're 13th in the Champions League, and things are really not so good. Shall we hear from Arne Slot and see what he has to say? Right, here's the manager of Liverpool, Arne Slot.
I think it's a shock for everyone, for the players, for the journalists over here, for me, for everyone. This is a shock. That is very, very, very unexpected if you look at the quality we are having. So, is it a lack of confidence? I didn't see that in the first half. Of course, it's hard if you concede straight after losing 3-0 straight into this game. You concede the goal, but I saw the mentality that these players have shown so many times since I'm here, came back in a way you would like to come back, so created chances, we kept them on their half.
He's going to be in trouble, I tell you. I know there are a lot of people around Liverpool and big names around Liverpool. That's absolutely no way because he won the title last year. But it doesn't mean anything. If this slide continues... It's something's got to give. Everybody's trying to put the finger on it, exactly the reason it is. But there were new signings came in. They spent like £400 million. And is it that? Everybody's playing bad at the moment. You had Virgil van Dijk actually put his hand up and gave away a penalty. What his hand was doing up there, I don't know. It's just very bizarre. And we're just... Honestly, and I don't know whether it's Arne Slot because he then came in on a ready-made team last year that won the title and now it's his. I don't know. Yeah. It's not going well. Whereas Arsenal...
Oh, yes.
They're unbelievable.
Oh.
Was it 3-1?
3-1. They beat Bayern Munich yesterday. So it seemed that Arsenal and Bayern Munich were probably the 2 best sides in Europe, but now Arsenal are. They're top of the Champions League.
I forgot to find out last week who won in the North London derby.
Oh, don't ask him that.
Was it? Did Arsenal win that as well?
Yeah. Oh, you're trying... Oh, look, you're rubbing it in now.
No, I just wondered... We talked about it in the morning on the weekend, and I can't remember who... Got to find out who won.
Ellie will tell you all about it.
Sorry. It wasn't
really
pretty,
bad.
all right?
It wasn't pretty. It was 4-1.
I thought Costello was very good.
It wasn't good, and it was probably one of the worst performances Spurs has ever had. So yeah, it wasn't good.
Okay.
Yeah.
But
thanks for bringing it up. I appreciate it.
But at least they redeemed themselves yesterday.
They nearly did. So Paris Saint-Germain, they played, and they lost 5-3. So Spurs scored 3 goals, and it was a bit of a mad game of football. Did you know that out of the 8 goals, 7 of those were scored by Paris Saint-Germain players? Because Randall Colomouani, who's playing for Spurs, is on loan from Paris Saint-Germain. And he scored 2 goals for Spurs, so therefore they were responsible for most of them. But it was a bit of a mad game. Vitinha for PSG was amazing, but he scored a hat-trick. But unfortunately, Spurs have shipped 9 goals now in the last couple of games. So anyway, onwards and upwards. Onwards and upwards.
Yes.
That's it. I got through it. I survived it.
There's always next year.
Yeah, there's always next week. There's Fulham on Saturday night. Who knows what's going to happen?
Who knows? Thanks, Coity.
Right, still to come. There are warnings that migration is set to rise by the end of the Parliament. We'll get the papers and all the details with Penny and Christo in a few minutes. There they are.
But first, if you're in search of some holiday sun, here's the forecast across Europe.
Can't wait to get in that sea. Lovely and warm. Just like the feeling of having great travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
There's some further heavy, thundery rain affecting parts of Eastern Europe as we go through the next few days, particularly Greece and Albania. But starting off further west, yes, some rain pushing into the far northwest of Spain, but actually ahead of that, tomorrow looks largely fine and dry. A few bits of rain across the southern parts of Italy, but as I mentioned, it's further east, Greece, Turkey, Albania, where we're going to see heavy rain building up. Some places could see 250 millimetres through this week, enough to cause some disruption.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m. only on GB News.
Britain's newsroom, weekday mornings from 9:30.
And all the way around it, there's going to be 1 million bricks with 1 million answered prayers, so people can take their smartphones, scan a prayer and see how it was answered. I'm joined now by Richard Gamble. You're the founder of this project. Just tell us about it and what inspired you.
So the concept is we want to bring hope to people, and anyone coming will be able to point their phone at any one of the bricks and their phone will light up and tell them the story of answered prayer. And God spoke to me about this 21 years ago, so it's been a roller coaster journey. So it's just a real thrill today that we can get started, and we want to proclaim to the nation that Jesus is alive, he listens, and he answers our prayers.
And how important do you think this is now in this day and age?
Well, I mean, one of the things that we're doing is we're not just collecting the answered prayers from now, but from all of history. So we want to preserve the Christian heritage of the nation and get schools and colleges to come and visit and find out all the stories of what God's done through our history. And I think particularly now that's more important than ever.
And you didn't want it to look like a religious monument as such, like Christ the Redeemer?
Yeah, when we ran a global competition with the Royal Institute of British Architects, we didn't want it to have the Christian iconography. We wanted to be a stunning structural design that basically encourages people to come along, have a look, and when they come they'll be able to see all these tiny bricks on it and realise how big a million is. And I hope as a piece of art that's going to inspire millions of people to think about praying.
GB News, the People's Channel.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pierce.
And me, Miriam Gates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
It's 7:48. Let's have a quick look through the papers with Penny and Christo. Morning, you two.
Morning.
We start with a quick look at the budget.
Just very briefly, because I think we've talked a lot about the budget, haven't we? Have we reached peak budget?
I think we can
possibly. We're
a
getting
little
there.
bit.
Yeah. we've decided, like you and I in the green room, Penny.
Yes,
we've come to a decision that we're going to, and I know you'll be happy to hear this.
Yes.
Abolish taxation.
Are we?
Hold on a second.
I'm sure you agreed to that in the green room.
I was merely pointing out that the happiest people in the world every year are the Scandinavians who pay the hugest amount of tax, but they see the results, and that is what you need.
But we don't have that here.
No, we don't.
And I don't trust that they do better with my money than me. And I believe ideologically that the fundamental role of a government is to help me keep more of my money rather than try and think of ways to take it.
Because that way you can spend it on things which keep other people in jobs.
They get their pound of flesh,
Except
they
that
get
if you
their
look
VAT,
at the Scandinavians, for
they
example, they put huge VAT on things that cause harm down the line, like alcohol, for example, which, of course, contributes to all sorts of...
Whereas here we do it on things like houses that people live in.
Sometimes I feel a bit guilty, because being a northerner, the fact that nowadays I have 2 ladies that come in and clean the house and a lady who does my ironing.
Do you?
Or our ironing,
yes.
I should say. And I feel a bit guilty about that. And yet, you sort of think, if it reaches a point where you sort of have to say, well, actually, because of all these taxes, I can't afford to do any of that, I'm actually denying work to people who want it.
Whereas if that person would be doing a tax return, that person would be paying tax on the money that you're giving them. They would also, as you said, be going out to the high street, maybe eating out. It was like everyone was hailing this minimum wage rise, right? And I kind of get it. Great, everyone's going to be earning more money. Well, not if you're laid off because the employer can't afford to keep you on anymore. And so it's such short-sighted politics.
We thought we might move on to other things, and this is a story which is in all of the papers today about Elton John. This is a very sad story about Elton John, who you probably know, he has talked about it before, but he's now he's half blind. He's actually lost. It is awful. He's lost the sight in his right eye. That was last year. I think it was to do with an infection, actually. And he says his left is not so good, but he is optimistic that someday science will help me with this one. The reason I wanted to talk about it, though, he says that the headline is, I'm half blind, but I feel the love from pals. He does Zooms with all his mates. So when he's having a Zoom call with Brandy Carlisle or, you know, any of the other people that he's mates with, he can zoom in, and he can zoom in and make them larger so that he can actually see them. And I was thinking, we do such a lot of stuff about technology being bad and we're worried about AI, but this is where technology gets a big old tick.
Yeah. Well, I saw a viral thing the other day on X about someone who had a disability saying actually the number of innovations that we've got that we all use day to day in our lives that came from people who had disabilities. Actually, I think we forget that sometimes. Like things like Velcro, things like all sorts like that, that came from the need for people who had mobility problems or anything like that. And so, this is a nice thing to come out of it. But I mean, he knows all of his music off by heart. He doesn't need to read music, does he?
No,
he knows
he
it
doesn't
all off the piano.
know.
Not that he plays it that much anymore because he stopped touring, right?
Yeah.
Well, he plays it at home.
He did 17 farewell tours, didn't he?
I wish I'd have seen Elton.
He was. You know, I saw him in his last farewell tour, and he didn't move very much, bless him, because he had bad mobility. So what they did was that he sat at the piano, and then the whole stage sort of tilted so that he could wave at the audience without having to move from the seat. So, fair play to him for that.
Right. Yeah. Can we have a look? Because I'm obsessed with this, really. Looking for our car, Christo. Spent 3 days looking for our cars.
Yes, apparently, where did we leave the car? We spent an average of more than 3 days searching for our own vehicles. People do not remember where they have put
Can people
the car.
often spot Penny Smith wandering aimlessly around car parks?
I'm not too bad, although my worst one of all was going to a party and I went in my car, and then because of the fact that I'd drunk something, I obviously sort of took a cab home. Next day, I'd forgotten that I even drove anywhere, and I phoned the police to say my car had been stolen.
Oh, no!
And they found it very shortly afterwards.
This is why I don't like paying higher taxes because that would have the police would have paid. Been paid
time,
to answer that call.
Sorry.
Yeah, apparently as well.
I apologise.
You had a little drink at the party, didn't
Yes, it was just a little drink, Stephen.
And it wiped your memory clean.
It did, Stephen. Yes, Aunt
One of
Ellie,
the
yes.
reasons, apparently, by the way, is that the colour of cars, we're all buying slate grey, black, you know, very
They're all camouflage.
Yeah, so they all look the same.
I know, it is awful.
You've got your pink car.
You need a bit of ribbon for your aerial. I do. It's a Barbie car, obviously. It's the Barbie convertible.
Yeah, you see, it is funny. When you see a horrible coloured car, you do think, yeah, should have been...
You know where it is. All right, you two, thank you.
Here's your weather.
Warm and cosy, with a chance of zero visibility. Boxed Boiler sponsors the weather on GB News.
Good morning, this is your GB News weather update from the Met Office. It's fair to say it's quite a bit milder than it was this time yesterday for many of us, and the milder theme's going to continue through today, but with that it's also going to be quite cloudy and a bit wet at times. We have some rain across northern and western areas at the moment, and a lot of that is going to filter a bit further east and southeast as we go through the day, but it's going to take quite a while to move through, so actually some parts of the southeast staying largely dry, at least through daylight hours. That is. Now, as I mentioned, it's mild, markedly milder than it was this time yesterday, and temperatures rising through the day. We're looking at highs around 13, 14 Celsius, so a fair few degrees above average for the time of year. But we do need to watch out for some strong blustery winds. Breezy for all of us, but the strongest winds will be across northern and western parts of Scotland as we go through this evening, and overnight gusts of 60 to 70, perhaps 75 miles per hour here. Also, plenty of showers across northern and western Scotland. Some of them could be quite heavy. A few showers across parts of Northern Ireland through this evening. Some clearer weather across much of northern England and Wales, but across central, southern, eastern England, it's a cloudy, damp end to the day, but eventually that rain is going to clear away towards the southeast around midnight time. I'm expecting it to clear away entirely. Otherwise then, clearer skies following in behind for most, but still plenty of showers towards the north and west. Still those strong winds to watch out for as well towards northwest Scotland. Temperatures not dropping as low as they have done through some recent nights. Despite the clear skies, that breeze will stop it from getting especially chilly. Then Friday actually looks like a largely fine start for many. Still breezy for sure, but a lot of sunshine to be had first thing. More showers developing as we go through the day, coming in from the west and fairly frequent across parts of Scotland. Some winteriness mixed in over the higher ground too. Watch out as those showers could merge into some longer spells of rain at times, and temperatures around average, so not quite as high as they are today.
Warm and cosy, with a chance of zero visibility. Boxed Boiler sponsors the weather on GB News.
Thank you, Britain, for making us the fastest growing news website in the UK. We're truly humbled, and we couldn't have done it without you.
Good morning, this is the latest AI travel news from gbnews.com. The A78 northbound at Kip Marina is dealing with flooding, causing significant travel restrictions. Meanwhile, the M4 eastbound is experiencing congestion between junction 26 Malpas and junction 23A Magor. In Hampshire, a traffic collision on the A34 southbound between the junctions with the A272 and the A33 has closed one lane. And on the trains, there is disruption on Chiltern Railways between West Ruislip and Wembley Stadium, as well as delays on cross-country services between Bournemouth and Brockenhurst. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
It's the final week to see how you can enjoy Christmas on us. First, we'll give you an incredible £30,000 in tax-free cash. Then we'll give you a further £10,000 cash to spend on all your Christmas presents, even the tree. Christmas lunch, that's on us too, with £1,000 in shopping vouchers to spend at your favourite supermarket. Finally, a GB News Christmas goodie bag. For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus 1 standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB17 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 28th of November. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
A really important thing about GB News, and it's brought something completely different to the landscape.
The mainstream is all about keeping the status quo as it is, ticking along quite nicely. They don't want to ask difficult questions.
GB News exists because there is a desperate need for fearless journalism that puts the people first.
GB News came on the scene as a disruptor, and it has always been a disruptor ever since.
Journalism in this country has been a cosy world full of groupthink until now.
Well, the reality is that most British journalists are afraid. That's not GB News.
Journalism is journalism at the end of the day, and we're not here to serve any masters. Our masters are our audience.
We're here to talk about things in a way that have never been broadcast on British airways before.
Do not miss a moment on GB News.
The #1 news channel in the country. Good morning. Taxes are lifted to a record high. Rachel Reeves reveals a budget with businesses, workers and savers paying the price.
Well, tax thresholds are frozen for an additional 3 years and the OBR is warning of low growth. Question is the country being plunged into an economic doom loop? Well, we spoke to the Chancellor earlier.
I did have to increase taxes yesterday, but I've kept them to an absolute minimum on ordinary working people, freezing those thresholds for an additional 3 years from 2028. So more money in people's pockets, whether those are working families or indeed pensioners.
£67 billion of tax rises over 2 budgets from a government that said that they would not increase taxes on working people. But Labour MPs are happy and the markets are calm, and that's largely what she was trying to do.
Is it time to say goodbye to the one-in, one-out scheme? New research shows the government's partial migrant returns deal has deterred channel crossings at a lower rate than the Conservatives' Rwanda scheme that didn't actually start.
President Trump's son defends the US Russian envoy Steve Witkoff. It's over leaked conversations which appeared to show him coaching Russian officials on how to handle the US president.
And in sport this morning, well, it's the good, the bad and the ugly for English teams in the Champions League last night. Well, the good, Arsenal win, this time against the mighty Bayern Munich. Bad for Spurs as they concede 5 goals in Paris, although they did score 3. And ugly, Liverpool get thrashed at home by PSV Eindhoven, and they're on their worst run for 71 years.
It's a much milder day today for sure, but also quite cloudy, and there's some rain around and strengthening winds, especially across parts of Scotland. Stick around to find out more.
It's just gone 8 o'clock. I'm Stephen Dixon.
I'm Ellie Costello, and this is GB News Breakfast.
I just want to say hello to the good people of Lytham, St Anne's and Blackpool, because I was up there. I've been up there over the last couple of days seeing family. You would not believe the number of times we got stopped. Just for people just wanting to say hello. So good morning. If you stopped and said hello, good morning to you. It was lovely to see you. And the good people of the Northwest loving GB News.
Isn't that lovely?
Yeah, and it's nice. And can I say to all of you, the fact you just go, none of this. Oh, excuse me. Are you all right, Stephen?
Yeah, it's
and
so
that,
nice.
Perfect.
You know what?
It's the way to do
That's really nice.
Of course
it is really nice, because some people complain about the fact... No, I think it's really nice. It's always nice to have a chat as well.
Do you know what? I've had 2 people stop and ask me if I've got a flask, if I got my flask back. Remember I told you that I left my flask in the taxi the other day? 2 people stopped me and said, have you found your flask? No, I haven't, but I have ordered a new one. So it's coming.
so there you go.
So I will have a new thermos.
Very much looking forward to that.
You ordered that before the budget, then?
Yes, I actually did.
Yes.
Yes. I should have waited, shouldn't I?
The thermoses have gone through the roof, haven't they? Now?
Well, probably.
Thermos,
yeah.
Haven't checked,
I wouldn't be surprised.
No, it is lovely, isn't it?
It's the
One big
nicest
family.
thing. It does feel like we're all part of the family, so thank you very much indeed. Now, should we talk about money? Because Rachel Reeves did deliver the budget yesterday after those months of anticipation. This is what she had to say earlier.
I did have to increase taxes yesterday, but I've kept them to an absolute minimum on ordinary working people, freezing those thresholds for an additional 3 years from 2028. So more money in people's pockets, whether those are working families or indeed pensioners.
But, of course, the drama began before the Chancellor had even reached the dispatch box.
Yeah, a leaked report from the Office for Budget Responsibility overshadowed her announcement, sparking fury across Westminster.
This is deeply disappointing and a serious error on their part. The Office for Budget Responsibility have already made a statement taking full responsibility for their breach.
Leader Kemi Badenoch has demanded that Rachel Reeves resigns, accusing the Chancellor of losing control.
It tells you everything you need to know about her grip on the Treasury. She's making the UK a shambolic laughingstock to international investors, and if she doesn't resign for breaking her promises, she should sure as hell go for this.
Yeah. Well, as we work our way through the budget then, try and work out what it's really going to mean for us, are the Chancellor's days numbered, Catherine Forster?
I think she's saved herself for now, and the Prime Minister, because there were all these rumblings, so many Labour MPs incredibly cross with the government because they hadn't done various things that they wanted, like lifting the 2-child benefit cap. They have done that, something Rachel Reeves didn't want to do and had said wasn't affordable. The Labour backbenchers won on welfare cuts. There were £5 billion the government wanted to make. That didn't happen. So, look, Labour MPs largely happy, though some worried about how this is going to go down with voters, quite rightly. The markets are happy, but Rachel Reeves there was saying she had to put up taxes. Well, actually, the productivity downgrades that she talked about didn't constitute as much of a chunk as you might have thought. And actually, a lot of this is choices that the government chose to make to keep Labour MPs happy. So the threshold freeze on income tax thresholds going forward for another 3 years to 2031, that's going to drag huge numbers of people to paying higher taxes. That is going to make $8 billion a year, and that will pay for the £5 billion of welfare savings that they didn't have and the 2-child benefit cap that they have lifted, despite the fact that most voters think that actually it's fair enough.
Can we talk a little bit about the drama surrounding this budget in the weeks, the days, the hours before the Chancellor even got to the dispatch box? I mean, it was extraordinary, wasn't it? The most chaotic budget I think any of us can remember.
It was.
Ever.
I mean, yesterday morning, a senior figure in Labour said to me, there are some things that you don't know about yet. And I was like, really? Well, there was very little. I think the precise figure of how much is going to come off our energy bills, we didn't have that. But there was very little, really, that hadn't been trailed. And then we had the absolute chaos of the fact that the OBR accidentally published their assessment of the whole budget about 45 minutes before the Chancellor stood up. So I was sitting in the press gallery in the House of Commons, and all the journalists were reading through the budget on their phones, not listening to PMQs. Everyone's putting out this long before she stood up. So obviously she's furious about that, and I'm sure heads will roll at the OBR. But the Deputy Speaker, very cross that yet again most of the budget had been leaked to the media rather than Parliament hearing these things for the first time. And also many people saying that all the speculation, all the worry that people have depressed the economy because people worried about how it's going to hit them not spending money.
Yeah. All right, Catherine, thank you. Ian King, the business journalist, is here. Morning, Ian. That's talking down the economy, which is never a good thing, is it? The market seem to be reasonably happy with this, but is that because, as she sort of rightly says, really, it's about stability. So there's nothing in it for growth. We're not going to see the economy boom, but at least it's not going totally down the pan. Is that as good as we can hope for?
Certainly, yeah. The business point I can come on to in a moment, if you like. But, the market reaction, all important. In the interview that you did with the Chancellor, she cited how well the FTSE 100 did yesterday. Well, actually, the Stoxx 600, which is the main European stock index, did actually better than the FTSE. So I wouldn't read too much into that. The FTSE 100 is not really a reliable barometer of UK corporate health. It's full of international companies, big mining companies that in many cases don't have much in the UK at all, apart from a head office in some cases. So you can't read too much into that. But it was the gilt market reaction that was really important. 10-year gilts, which is a pretty good proxy for UK borrowing, fell by the biggest amount they have done on the occasion of any budget since 2006. So the market quite like that. If you look at the headroom the Chancellor has given herself, she's more than doubled the headroom that she gave herself in the budget last year. If you go back over the long-term average, say over the last 20, 25 years, typically a Chancellor has given themselves £28 billion worth of headroom. So she's still below the long-term average. But it gets us back to a level where we were when, for example, Rishi Sunak was Chancellor of the Exchequer. So that's a vote of confidence. The gilt market liked what it saw. It's also worth pointing out that if you look at the tax increases that she's pushing through, they're all back-end loaded. If you take, for example, the raid on salary sacrifice, which is going to raise £4.7 billion, so it's the second biggest tax raising measure in this budget after the freeze on tax thresholds. That doesn't kick in until 2028, 2029. The mansion tax, that doesn't kick in until 2028. So a lot of this is back-end loaded. How's she going to make up the difference in the meantime? Well, more borrowing, essentially. But the freezing thresholds, that's the big-ticket item. That raises £12.3 billion by the end of this Parliament per year. That kicks in straight away. So she is going to be raising some money measures through taxes. But
this is what I don't quite understand. If it's so back-end loaded and we're going to borrow in the interim, that leaves two problems, sort of politically, doesn't it, in that it's going to mean we're all going to feel poorer in the run-up to the next election, unless, and there is talk about potential 2027, could we see an election in 27, at which point any party that takes over is going to be left with a huge borrowing debt. They can't say, well, we'll scrap all of these increases because they're going to be left with a huge borrowing debt.
Well, that's the inexorable increase in government borrowing. What has happened yesterday is that, government borrowing will carry on rising. We will still be running, we're going to run a deficit to GDP ratio of 4.5% this year, which is absolutely extraordinary, by the way. That is something that one doesn't normally see in advanced economies. According to the OBR, it falls to 3.5% next year. So in other words, we're still borrowing more money. The national debt is being added to. The crucial barometer that the financial markets are looking for is the debt to GDP ratio. And that's the Chancellor's one of the Chancellor's fiscal rules. She wants the debt to GDP ratio to be coming down by the end of this Parliament, and she's convinced the markets yesterday that will happen. So it's hitting a target 4 or 5 years out. Now, you can argue, well, what's the point of that? This is a target that's always 5 years into the future. And indeed, the architect of this sort of approach to government borrowing was Gordon Brown, who was Rachel Reeves's. She had a picture of him on her wall at university. Gordon Brown was forever changing his golden rule, as he called it in the old days, you'll remember. I mean, he constantly changed. He changed the terms of those rules on several occasions.
OK, Ian, thank you very much. We'll see you in the next hour. Thank you.
Oh, is that where we are? Just feel like a loop, doesn't it?
Does a bit.
Honestly, things ever change. Look, it's interesting, Ian, going through what the markets and the gilt markets and all this make of all this, and that's really important, actually. But what about how you will be impacted directly? Well, you can go to gbnews.com and use our free budget calculator. You'll need quite a few details. I had to look at it this morning.
Yeah.
But get those details in. It should tell you about you and your partner, how much more or less you'll be paying as a result of all this. Or you can scan the QR code if you're watching on TV on your screen right now.
Now, in yesterday's budget announcement, the Chancellor revealed that she will lift 450,000 children out of poverty by removing the two-child benefit cap.
Yeah, so how many families will actually be affected by this? Will it have a big impact on those families? Well, let's head up to South Shields. Our reporter Bethany Elsey is there. Morning, Bethany.
Morning, Stephen and Ellie. Yes, the scrapping of the two-child benefit cap is one of the biggest announcements affecting families here in South Shields, an area that is acutely affected by the cost of living crisis. On average, households here earn about £10,000 less per household than the average national income, which, if you think about it, is massive. Working families are to benefit from, yes, the scrapping of the two-child benefit cap and also free school meals. One of those parents is working mum of three, Sophie. Sophie, what do you think about the budget?
I think scrapping the two-child benefit cap is a really positive step. It's something that will impact my household in particular massively. It'll mean that I've got a little bit more money that I can take a bit further, but I do question whether it goes far enough. The tax threshold freeze, that means any pay rises I do get are going to make a massive difference to me. And the way that benefits taper off, because I am on universal credit as well, there's no incentive for me to work more hours. I'd actually be worse off if I was to do that. So it doesn't really support working parents who want to go that little bit further. I am grateful that the scrap the cap is the right thing to do. It'll help a lot of people, not just me. But it doesn't fix a bigger problem that the working more doesn't pay. And, you know, I should be able to go to work and be better off than not working at all. It doesn't make sense to me.
Absolutely. 1 in 5 families in South Shields claim universal credit. 35% of those are actually in employment, which feels like a huge problem in in-work poverty. You're one of those people claiming universal credit, which means that from September next year, you'll actually qualify for free school meals. How will that help your family?
It's something that will impact me. I've really felt by my eldest child's just gone from kind of the primary school into junior school, so it's the first term where I've had to pay for school meals, and I did notice the difference. You know, I don't have a lot of disposable income as it is, so you know, any kind of penny pinching that I can do, it's going to make a massive difference. And you know, I've got 2 of our children to follow, so if I had to pay for all 3 of them to have school meals, I am a single mum, so it's a massive impact on the purse strings.
And Sophie, you've been a Labour voter your whole life. In South Shields has been Labour voting for 90 years. It's one of the safest Labour seats in the country. Do you think a lot of people will feel let down that this doesn't really feel like a very Labour budget?
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely one of these people. You know, Labour has lost my faith over this kind of term. I'm really disappointed. It feels more wish-washy. They've gone from left to being more in the middle, and they don't really support working families. It seems to swing from kind of far left to far right, but none of the policies really make sense. So, I mean, I'll be voting probably Green this time round, or Jeremy Corbyn's your party, because I do consider myself more of a socialist. I am quite left-wing, and you know, I want vulnerable people to be protected. I want working people, class people to be protected, and I'm just not kind of impressed with how the government's delivering at the minute.
So an overwhelming sense of disappointment here, Stephen and Ellie. It doesn't sound great.
Thank you so much for bringing that to us.
It's interesting. It's not of someone who is benefiting from this, but still not giving it an overall thumbs up, because it's about that aspiration thing, isn't it? You say, well, you can't go and work more. You can't do things to earn more money, because you'll then lose lose out,
Yeah.
and people then get reliant on handouts.
They're essentially saying, well, what's the point?
Yeah.
Yeah. Let us know what you think. This is our poll of the day today. You decide poll. Was the Chancellor right to scrap the 2-child benefit cap? So you can vote on our website, gbnews.com, or you can scan the QR code on your screens now. Just take your phone up to the screen and scan that. Take part in our poll, yes or no, and we'll share the results throughout the programme.
Yes, you've got to be a friend of GB News to do that, though.
You do have to be a friend of GB News, which is the new way of getting involved in the programme.
Yes. So, there you go. And look, I'd be interested to see what the result of that is, actually. It's quite a fascinating question. Right, should we see what the weather's going to do for you? It was considerably warmer this morning.
Oh.
A balmy 10 degrees when I left the house.
Oh, that is balmy.
It is.
Lovely.
See what it's going to do throughout the day.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boiler sponsors the weather on GB News.
Good morning, this is your GB News weather update from the Met Office. It's fair to say it's quite a bit milder than it was this time yesterday for many of us, and the milder theme's going to continue through today, but with that it's also going to be quite cloudy and a bit wet at times. We have some rain across northern and western areas at the moment, and a lot of that is going to filter a bit further east and southeast as we go through the day, but it's going to take quite a while to move through, so actually some parts of the southeast staying largely dry, at least through daylight hours. That is. Now, as I mentioned, it's mild, markedly milder than it was this time yesterday, and temperatures rising through the day. We're looking at highs around 13, 14 Celsius, so a fair few degrees above average for the time of year. But we do need to watch out for some strong blustery winds. Breezy for all of us, but the strongest winds will be across northern and western parts of Scotland as we go through this evening, and overnight gusts of 60 to 70, perhaps 75 miles per hour here. Also, plenty of showers across northern and western Scotland. Some of them could be quite heavy. A few showers across parts of Northern Ireland through this evening. Some clearer weather across much of northern England and Wales, but across central, southern, eastern England, it's a cloudy, damp end to the day, but eventually that rain is going to clear away towards the southeast around midnight time. I'm expecting it to clear away entirely. Otherwise then, clearer skies following in behind for most, but still plenty of showers towards the north and west. Still those strong winds to watch out for as well towards northwest Scotland. Temperatures not dropping as low as they have done through some recent nights despite the clear skies. That breeze will stop it from getting especially chilly. Then Friday actually looks like a largely fine start for many. Still breezy for sure, but a lot of sunshine to be had first thing. More showers developing as we go through the day, coming in from the west and fairly frequent across parts of Scotland. Some winteriness mixed in over the higher ground too. Watch out as those showers could merge into some longer spells of rain at times, and temperatures around average, so not quite as high as they are today.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boiler sponsors the weather on GB News.
Right, don't go anywhere, because Paul's here with all your sport in just a moment.
Five hosts, 5 opinions, 5 fearless debates, 5 unfiltered takes on the day's news.
5 reasons not to be anywhere else on Saturday night.
This is the Saturday 5. You got me. You got me good there. Britain's biggest Saturday night TV show.
It's not a bad brand.
Yeah. Uncensored.
Very, very racy tonight.
On the unpredictable.
What did she say? Can you translate it for us?
And always entertaining.
And how can a country go from being led by William Wallace Saturday nights from 6 p.m. only on GB News, the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
You're going to want to stay tuned, trust me.
Nana Queer, weekends from 3 p.m.
And I'm going to start with you. Talk to me about autism and why you got involved with this, because some people don't know the story as to why you set up Anna Kennedy Online.
Well, I have 2 sons. They're now 32 and 35, and I'm proud to say that my eldest son, Patrick, is in Stockholm at the moment on his own, so that's like a big step for him to go on holiday, and he's loving it. So they both were diagnosed fairly young, and the support at the time was just non-existent. So we had to set up our own school, And then we set up a vocational college for my youngest son, Angelo.
Now, how do you know that they're autistic? Is there a blood test? Is it something where you have a list of symptoms? Or because some people say, oh, I've got ADHD and this and that, and I think sometimes people conflate it with autism. Are there parallels with the two, or are they totally separate? Because it's confusing.
They're very different from each other, both Patrick and Angelo. So Angelo was diagnosed fairly early at 2.5, 3. He passed all the milestones and then he just lost everything. His speech, eye contact, didn't want to be touched, didn't even want me to hug him at the time, running from one end of the room to the other, squealing, and it was just like, what is going on? And as a mum, you're thinking, what have I done wrong? Have I done something wrong?
Oh, no.
Patrick was diagnosed fairly early again, but he was premature, and I thought the difficulties that he was having because he was 11 weeks premature, I thought, is it because he had a bit of a difficult start, in and out of hospital, and then he was diagnosed at 4, and then we found out when he was 7, when he was struggling at school. He was finding school difficult, being bullied. So it's an autism spectrum condition, and if you feel that there might be, something that I'm not quite sure, I can't get a handle on it, please go and see your GP and just ask for your child to be assessed. But the difficulty at the minute is the waiting list is so long to get a diagnosis.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Britain was once the envy of the world, but look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m, only on GB News.
Welcome back to Breakfast. Now, this Christmas, we are putting on a really exciting event and we want loads of you there as well.
Yes, it's Saturday, the 13th of December, and you are invited to join the GB News family for our Carols by Candlelight concert. So for your chance to be with us, you can apply for tickets by scanning the QR code on your screen right now. That's if you're watching. If you're listening, the address is gbnews.com/carols.
And the concert is going to be recorded and then broadcast on Christmas Eve. That'd be really lovely.
And there'll be a lovely solo of Oh Holy Night from Paul Coit.
Yes, there will be. God bless ye merry gentlemen. The thing is, it'll be one of those like when I was at school and they go, yeah, Paul, could you just mouth the words? Don't just... Don't make any sound. OK, fine.
What is your favourite carol?
It is that. God rest ye merry gentlemen.
Merry Gentlemen.
I like that one because it's very sort of Charles Dickens-esque. I love the idea of like that Victorian Christmas, like the Perrycombe.
Carol of the Bells.
Oh,
I love that one.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
There's a great one in the Andy Williams Christmas special that he does with all his brothers, all 60s jumpers. It's a great one, that is.
Right, shall we have a look at the Champions League?
Are we here for sport? Is that what we're here for?
We'll do a little bit.
I prefer chatting about carols.
I thought you might do.
I do like sport when you do it.
Well, Liverpool lost 4-1 to PSV Eindhoven yesterday, and Liverpool, it's just a mess. It's a disaster at the moment for Liverpool. Sorry, Liverpool fans, but, you won the title. You had a lovely time last season, so bear with me. As I say, it's the third game in a row that they've lost by 3 goals, and that's the first time in 33 years. It's for a numerologist, this is just fantastic with the number 3. Lost 9 games in the last 12. Worst run since they were relegated in 1954. Something's up, but nobody seems to be able to put their finger on exactly what it is. But Arne Slot is not going to be as safe as maybe you would have thought at the start of the season, because everybody thought they're going to run away with everything. But no. Arsenal, other way, they're looking fantastic. 3-1, beat Bayern Munich. They had a 100% record, Bayern Munich, but Arsenal have got rid of that, and that was at the Emirates. And no sign of running out of steam either, Arsenal. They just get better and better, which is a worry for all of us at Tottenham Hotspur, particularly. They're top of the Champions League. And then talking to Spurs, they lost 5-3 at PSG, at Paris Saint-Germain in Paris yesterday. It was a ding-dong. There's not so much argy-bargy, but it was a ding-dong.
Wow.
Spurs went ahead twice, gave away some silly goals, but they did look certainly as if they were more up for it than they were when they played Arsenal on Sunday. So, hopefully there's something that we can look at and people think, well, you know what, there may be... It just looked a little more positive, although the result may not say that.
Sheffield. What is going on with the football clubs of Sheffield?
Yeah, well, Sheffield United, well, they've moved out of the relegation places now, Chris Wilder, and so they won 3-0 against Portsmouth yesterday. And we know that Sheffield Wednesday have had that terrible time, haven't they, because the bad owner, who is now gone because he's gone into receivership. So there are offers for Sheffield Wednesday, but there was this rumour that had gone round that Sheffield United have American owners saying that they were exploring the possibility of buying Sheffield Wednesday. And this probably shows how, over on the other side of the Atlantic, how much they really know what football's like, and saying, hey, let's make it a Sheffield club and join them together. And it's like, no, never in a million years is this going to happen. So the fact that they could buy Sheffield Wednesday and then amalgamate them and then make them one big Sheffield team, which is just, to any football fan, it's just abhorrent.
They could do it in Manchester, couldn't they?
Can you imagine? Sheffield Wednesday, these two clubs have been going for over 100 years, that they could actually join together. Huge rivals. It's bad enough when you get some teams that talk about sharing a ground. Happens in Italy at the San Siro with the Milan teams, but it would never, ever, and I think it was given very short shrift as soon as they found out about it, or the Sheffield short shrift, as I like to call it, and then that's it. So it's not even worth thinking about it. It ain't going to happen.
Arsenal and Spurs.
Well, I think that worked very well. Everybody's so close.
Tottenham hot. Arsenal. Arsenal Hotspurs.
Listen, you got time for the Listen, I'm very excited about this because you know we did this so much during the Olympics before.
It's our favourite thing.
Olympic flame has been lit for Cortina and Milan, to mention Milan again. Although there we are, there's the Greek Presidential Guard. This happened in Olympia yesterday. They had to light the flame, by the way, indoors because of the weather. It was a bit dodgy.
Too windy.
But now they're going to go off and take the Olympic flame off across Italy. There we are. Oh, there we go. They've got a long way to go, but there are lots of people that are going to hold the flame. I think it's over 1,000. It's and the torch lighting ceremony, and then 10,001 torchbearers, 300 towns, 60 Italian cities. The torch has begun, and obviously every day I will tell you where it is until the Olympics.
Can't wait.
You can't wait for the Olympics to begin.
The countdown is on.
The countdown is on.
I can't see the flame. It doesn't look lit on that picture.
It is there. Sometimes it's just a bit smaller.
Yeah, that's correct, Ellie. Yeah, that's all it is. I hope it's lit anyway, because I'll have to go back to the start again.
All right, Paul, thank you.
Thank you. See you tomorrow.
Now, there are just a few weeks left until Christmas and time is running out. In fact, you've got one day left, have you?
1 day left.
Yes, to enter our GB News giveaway, the festive edition. £40,000 in tax-free cash, £1,000 to spend in your favourite supermarket and a GB News festive goodie bag. Here are all of the details that you need.
There's just 28 days until Christmas, and it's the final week to see how you can enjoy it on us. That's £30,000 in tax-free cash to make 2026 fantastic. A further £10,000 cash to spend on gifts for all the family, the tree and decorations. £1,000 in vouchers to buy a slap-up Christmas lunch at your favourite supermarket. And finally, a GB News Christmas goodie bag. Plus, we're going to get it all to you in time for the big day. For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB17 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 28th of November. The winner may be contacted live on GB News, week commencing the 8th of December. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Now, if you're travelling to work or school this morning, here's your traffic and travel update.
Good morning, this is the latest AI travel news from gbnews.com. Drivers on the A9 northbound face partial obstruction due to a collision south of Broxton roundabout. Expect congestion on the M4 at junction 33, Capel-Llanilturn, especially on the off-slip road. In Worcestershire, a major incident on the M5 northbound between junction 6 and 5 has closed 3 of 4 lanes, causing delays up to 1.5 hours. Meanwhile, on the A1M southbound in Hertfordshire, a lane is closed between junctions 3 and 2 due to a collision. And on the trains, Chiltern Railways has major disruption between West Ruislip and London Marylebone, with cross-country services affected between Bournemouth and Brockenhurst. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Now, do stay with us. Still to come, we're going to be going through the papers with Penny and Christo. But first, if you're in search of some holiday sun, here's the forecast across Europe.
I hope we haven't forgotten anything.
Travel insurance, I tick that box.
Yeah, but remember what you forgot last year.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations forecast.
There's some further heavy, thundery rain affecting parts of Eastern Europe as we go through the next few days, particularly Greece and Albania. But starting off further west, yes, some rain pushing into the far northwest of Spain, but actually ahead of that, tomorrow looks largely fine and dry. A few bits of rain across the southern parts of Italy, but as I mentioned, it's further east, Greece, Turkey, Albania, where we're going to see heavy rain building up. Some places could see 250 millimetres through this week, enough to cause some disruption.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations forecast.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk then?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact that Trump made a good start, no.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Bold. They are under no illusion.
Ray.
Are you a human trafficker?
Boundless. I've had enough of the nonsense, and I'm not afraid to say it.
Don't get this on a BBC.
Every weeknight, I tear through the headlines.
The smell of gasoline. Should we be worried about it?
From Westminster madness to cultural war chaos.
What we're going to do now, they are throwing things out the car as we speak.
Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Patrick Christie's tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Okoye, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, though.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK, we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News, the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. We're going through the papers in the company of Penny Smith and Christo Fufas. Morning, you two.
Morning.
Shall we take one last look at the budget, but should we look at a different angle, which was Kemi Badenoch's response
Someone
to Rachel Reeves.
put 50p in Kemi Badenoch.
Yeah.
They really did. I feel like yesterday, OK, she had a great conference where she gave that speech, but I feel like yesterday she was on fire. The entire 20-minute response was absolutely Brilliant. Yeah, I think it is the best we've actually seen her, and I've often thought that she's got potential that hasn't been realised. Now, I absolutely get 14 years of the Conservatives and the mistakes they made. Kemi Badenoch having a good day in Parliament is not going to perhaps be enough to convince people, but I think yesterday she showed she has the ability to hold the government to account, and I thought that some of the lines she came up with about how Rachel Reeves had spent the whole weekend complaining about mansplaining and misogyny, and she was perfectly placed to say, well, actually, woman to woman, people aren't complaining about the misogyny, they're complaining because you're incompetent. And, a male leader would not have been able to say that.
No. Do you think she's actually got a new speechwriter? Is that what it is? Do you know what?
And extra time because of the OBR leak.
And extra time.
So she has a bit of extra time to look at it.
Can I just say, as a woman, I thought it was rather good. Chancellor of the Exchequer, a woman. Leader of the Opposition, a woman. And the Deputy Leader, who I thought was great, who stood in for the Speaker, Lindsay Hoyle, Nusrat Ghani, I thought she was great as well. And I just, as I said, as a woman, I just thought, look at that. And, that's how far we've come.
I agree with that. I do. However, what I find a little annoying about that is that I think that it's great when we celebrate that a woman is in a position of power, like the Chancellor. And Rachel Reeves made an awful lot of, I'm a woman as a Chancellor. Great. But then I don't think you can have it both ways and then say, well, actually, any criticism of me is misogyny and mansplaining. Well, no, if you're a woman, you're going to be held to the same account as a man. You can't have it both ways and say that we need to celebrate you being a woman as a Chancellor and then say it's because you're a woman you're getting criticised. You can't have it both ways.
I might be... I mean, I don't know. But I get a bit irritated by all this bleating on about the fact it's a woman in the job.
Oh, no, I quite like...
Because
but, well...
I just sort of think, in a world of equality... I don't care if you're a woman or if you're a man, as long as you're doing the job. No. And Margaret Thatcher never went on about being a woman, did she?
No, she famously didn't like other women in her cabinet. She really,
I just sort of think. I mean, I totally get your point.
The thing is, Stephen, you don't come from a position where when you were growing up. When I was at the newspaper, for example, 100%. If you're a woman, you're going to go and be doing female stories. Yeah. I mean, I remember another colleague who was much stronger than me standing up and saying, "Why can't I go out on the strong stories? Why can't I go out on the leads and get the splash? Why do I have to go and talk about hem lengths and just whatever?"
Haven't we?
No, we haven't really, though, Stephen. I think
but
that's the nice thing.
Yeah, and it's good to mark history.
Exactly.
Why not? History. Yeah. But then after that,
I'm not banging on about it. I'm just saying it's nice.
I always think it's a nice acknowledgement, as long as no one's put in that position because of it.
Exactly.
So, for instance, when Rishi Sunak became Prime Minister, we said, look, it's someone who is not of the white ethnicity.
It wasn't really mentioned, was it? With Rishi Sunak?
But I think it was at first. But I think what you do is a little nod to it. You go, oh, isn't this nice? In addition to the fact that he's going to be, in the job, I don't think it's right to say we must put that person in because of that. Because I think
it should be a meritocracy. And that's all I'm pointing out. It's just that I thought, as I said, as a woman, I thought it was nice.
But anyway, Kemi Badenoch had a great day.
There we go.
Yeah. Can we talk about migration? Because we've got two stories. The Mirror says it's reportedly falling, Penny, which is yours, and Christo, you've got the Telegraph, which is saying a migration surge is on the way. Let's start, Penny, with you.
So this is data published today, which reveals that net migration has fallen to pre-Brexit levels of around 300,000, even though most people think the opposite. This is a survey by Ipsos British Future Immigration Attitudes Tracker. I just thought it was very interesting how part of it is to do with this kind of problem that we lump everything together, immigrants, asylum seekers, illegal immigration, along with legal migration. But migration as a whole is falling, even though the public thinks
300,000 is far too much. Isn't it? I mean, David Cameron was on about getting it down to the tens of thousands 15 years ago.
And even if it is falling, we also need to think about the reasons why it's falling, and that's because a lot of people are choosing to leave the UK at the moment because many people think it's uninvestable. But oppositely to that, in an opposite way to that, the Telegraph today saying that net migration is set to rise. Now, again, this isn't because people are flooding to come to the UK because we are, giving the impression that we are investable and an amazing place at the moment. It's because of what was described as the Boris wave. Now, this is... they're saying it's going to hit 340,000 by 2030. This is the OBR, Office for Budget Responsibility, because the migrants who came in the Boris wave are choosing to remain in the UK rather than returning to their home country. So the projection would undermine Sir Keir Starmer's election manifesto pledge to reduce net migration.
But wouldn't that change under this new plan from the Home Secretary?
Shabana Mahmood.
Well,
unless you've already got settled status.
But I think that, excuse me, but I think that's why she's doing this. It's partly to do with the Boris way.
Well, however, the fiscal watchdog OBR is saying actually this will be despite the visa crackdowns by Shabana Mahmood.
Oh, right.
So actually, I don't know whether it's because of students staying on or whether it's because this won't come in by the time these people get the chance to stay. But basically, we may end up with all of these people staying on.
Yeah. I just thought it was interesting
increasing.
about how you can have migration falling, but the public, it's a sort of almost a lagging indicator, as it were.
Yeah.
Penny, should we look at something totally different in the Mirror today?
Let us do this.
Tai Chi.
Now, I don't know if you've
insomnia.
Have you ever seen people doing Tai
this one,
Chi?
isn't it?
It's incredibly slow and rather weird. And when I worked in Hong Kong, all the parks were full of people doing early morning Tai Chi. There's something called, like, stroking the horse's mane or something, and it's all very slow, and you think, how can that even be exercise? But Tai Chi has been shown to tackle insomnia better than a favourite NHS treatment. They compared it with cognitive behavioural therapy for more severe sleeplessness and found that Tai Chi was really so much better if you were given if you did a twice weekly kind of Tai Chi.
So you don't do the Tai Chi when you can't. You don't get out of bed and start doing Tai Chi if you
and
can't.
then get back into bed.
You're supposed to do it at a different time of day,
exactly.
and then that helps you. Because I wouldn't be. I don't want to be doing Tai Chi in my long johns. You know, getting out of bed and doing that.
Yeah.
I don't think any of the neighbours would like to see that through the window either.
It's odd, though, isn't it? Because it sort of looks quite peaceful and calming.
It does look
peaceful. I've seen it on the telly.
Yeah, I can't imagine
Have
you've
you
done
seen
it.
it
I don't know why.
No,
but
no,
you
I've
don't
not
strike
done
me
it,
as a Tai Chier.
No,
I don't think it's funny, isn't it, these sort of things? It's just that, like, in the West, for some reason, we like to go and sort of, do something that involves kind of getting really hot and sweaty and then kind of,
Yeah, or half a bottle of red and,
You get very hot and sweaty after that.
No, but I do tend to pass out.
Have a really decent night's sleep, but only for a short amount of time, as we...
Well, then, maybe have another half a bottle of red.
And then,
I don't advocate that, I am joking.
No.
But,
yes, exactly.
But,
and then very gently almost doing Tai Chi to the medicine cabinet.
Yeah.
But the low-impact sports are meant to be really good for you.
They are, and all those things like yoga and everything.
Pilates.
Yeah, Pilates.
But also, as well, we have a view in this country, I think you're absolutely right, that if you go to the gym, again, there's loads of studies now saying that actually really gentle exercise in the gym for a longer period of time, cardio exercise, is way better for you than absolutely punishing yourself for 20 minutes and, dreading going. Actually, you'll achieve far more if you're a little bit more
I mean, it was never a good... I tried going to the gym for a while, and the trouble is that after 2 hours of going to the gym, I'd cheer myself up with a pie.
Yeah, this is the trouble.
That's what I do.
It's the
Go and eat a chocolate bar afterwards.
Yeah, exactly, just to perk yourself up.
Yeah.
All right, you two. Thank you very much indeed.
Now, do stay with us. Still to come, we're hoping to speak to the Shadow Chancellor, Mel Stride, in just a moment. That's next.
Westminster, the ultimate clique. And you're fighting like rats in a sack. But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask. OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician. Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off-limits. You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
and
say,
now you've lost it. That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless. But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show. Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
So proud of GB News for getting, and Bev, of course, for getting the interview. But the real important message from all of it was, of course, President Trump's Attack on the BBC. I've been proven wrong because I tweeted a couple of days ago, it just shows how much I know. I tweeted that I thought President Trump might accept the apology from the BBC as an off-ramp and say, look, I want to be the nice guy here. I don't want to sting the great British public who, of course, pay the licence fee and who would ultimately be funding any settlement or court fees. So I thought he might use that as an off-ramp. But nope, we got into the Roosevelt room in the White House. Bev sat down with him. I was standing just behind Bev listening to the whole interview. And even before we went live with the interview and started recording, he was so shocked, angry, and more than anything, actually, confused as to why the BBC would behave like that. He just couldn't believe, not that, you know, on one occasion, fine, maybe it could be a mistake, but the second time, the Newsnight incident just proved that, in his mind, it was intentional, it was institutional bias. There's a clip there of, a photo, sorry, there of us in the Oval Office. It was an amazing experience, Nana, of course, just being in that room. Once we finished the interview, President Trump came over to us and said hello and asked if we'd like to see his office and the Oval Office. And yeah, stepping into that room, the history, you can feel it, the soul of the place, the grandeur, the gold as well that President Trump has installed all over the room. He's received some criticism for his use of sort of gold decor across the White House, but I have to say it was extraordinary. And it didn't stop there. He then invited Bev and I and some of the crew out onto the Rose Garden patio. There was American music playing, which was very funny, and we had a quick glimpse down at the presidential Hall of Fame, just from the top of the patio there.
GB News, the People's Channel.
In the GB newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK, we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News, the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Now, we are waiting to speak to the Shadow Chancellor, Mel Strides. When we've got him, we will cross over to him. But in the meantime, let's continue looking through the papers with Penny Smith and Christo Fufas. And Christo, let's return to the budget, shall we, and what this all might mean for landlords.
Yes, because something that was in yesterday's budget, and it's being reported on in page 6 of today's Times, is yet another hammer blow for landlords. So, of course, you've got the Renters' Rights Bill, which is coming into effect in May, but got royal assent just a few weeks ago. That's going to make it very difficult for landlords to put rent up, and it can go to a tribunal, those sorts of things. Renters have a lot more rights about when they decide to move out of the property. Now, a lot of letting agents saying that's going to put rents up because landlords, because they can't put the rent up during the tenancy, will just list the property for more money.
Yep.
Now, renters, it's being reported that renters could bear the brunt of the tax increase for landlords. 500 million a year. So landlords, savers and investors facing this 2 percentage point tax increase, that's going to raise about $3 billion. And the new tax rate, the Office for Budget Responsibility is saying that it could cause more landlords to sell up, reducing housing stock and once again pushing up rent. And so I don't think people quite understand. Everyone wants to hammer landlords and say that they're evil and put more and more taxes and expenses on them. What they don't understand is that landlords, love them or loathe them, will run this as a business for a reasonable profit. So of course they're going to pass, just like what we've seen with the extra expenses being put on supermarkets. Well, who's going to pay for that? They're not going to say, well, we're going to make less money. They're going to put the prices up. So it just gets passed on.
And if the more landlords are selling up, then there's a lower housing stock,
which increases demand.
So,
Actually, the one thing that they could definitely have done is try to make it easier to move, and particularly for people to downsize, because that is where the growth is stymied, and it's good for everybody if people move house.
Yeah,
that's the main thing. What I also like in all the papers is, of course, the first thing that happens is, and I'm assuming this happens in newspaper. Buildings, I was about to say up and down the country, but mostly in the sort of the big ones, is that they immediately go, how can you beat the budget? And essentially they're saying that, you know, you can still, for example, go and put money into your pension pot. You know, you've got until, you know, essentially April 2029 to do that sort of thing.
You've got a little bit of a while. All right, you two, thank you very much indeed. Mel Stride, the Shadow Chancellor, is standing by. Good morning to you. Is it fair to say this budget has been a complete disaster? Talking to an economics expert earlier on, the bond markets seem pretty happy. Gilt yields are looking pretty good. They've gone down, so our borrowing is costing less. So there is certainly an element of the markets who think, well, it may not be great, but at least there's a bit of stability there.
Well, good morning, Stephen. I think part of the story of the bond markets is that we've just come off the back, of course, of many weeks of utter chaos with the Treasury leaking and U-turning on what may or may not be in the budget, and a very unsettling time for markets. And I think the fact that we've finally actually had the event and we know where we stand has probably been something that's contributed to markets at least knowing where they stand on these kind of things. But look, what has happened in this budget is just a second instalment of the disaster that we had in the first budget in the autumn of last year. Huge tax increases on hard-working people, whilst at the same time giving in to the pressures from their own backbenchers in the Labour Party and putting up benefits. That is not the way to get growth going. And in fact, in the OBR's numbers, you can see growth being damaged throughout the period compared to the forecast in the spring, unemployment going up every single year compared to the last forecast, and real living standards actually declining compared to last spring as a consequence of the choices that the government's taken.
Can we touch on the OBR? You just alluded there to the chaos yesterday, and there was drama before Rachel Reeves even got to the dispatch box, with the OBR essentially publishing their response to the budget in full. Richard Hughes, who is the head of the OBR, has apologised. Does an apology go far enough, and do you have full confidence in the OBR?
Well, look, I've known Richard Hughes for some time. He's an honourable and decent man, and I've always found him to be thoroughly professional and very aware of the responsibilities of the position that he holds. In answer to the question as to where this should all lead, I think it does depend on getting to grips with exactly what the facts were, and the OBR, as I understand it, are conducting an internal investigation at the moment. We really need to see the results of that before coming to any further conclusions.
Does there potentially need to be a criminal investigation into all of this?
Well, in the event that a market-sensitive document was leaked for reasons other than a genuine error, a simple, innocent error, then, I think we do get into that kind of territory. But as I say, we don't know exactly what has happened at the moment. I think the OBR has initially said this was just a genuine mistake. It was released earlier than it should have been. But clearly this is, Ellie, a completely unprecedented situation, not helped by the fact that, of course, it's come on the back of weeks and weeks of the Treasury going out there, floating different ideas as to what may be in the budget, saying one minute they'd be putting up income tax rates and then saying, oh no, they wouldn't, and so on, which has been very destabilising, both for the businesses, for the markets, but also for businesses when it's come to employing people or investing, and of course for consumer sentiment. Because that has been damaged by all this uncertainty as to where all this was going to lead.
I'm just wondering, and I'm aware it's a bit of an open goal for you, which is why I'm slightly hesitant, but nevertheless, this does seem to be, Nigel Farage called it an assault on aspiration. And to give him his due, that does seem to be a fair point, doesn't it? We've got welfare spending going up. We've got the benefits of saving for a rainy day or our old age and putting in pensions certainly becomes more questionable. Are we changing as a country where aspiration is being seen as a bad thing?
I think we're in a bad place on aspiration and opportunity and celebrating achievement and business success. Absolutely. And we have to get back actually to when I set up my first business. I grew businesses here and in the United States from scratch. And I did that from the 1980s onwards when there was a very different spirit in the country, and that was driven by a Conservative government at that time. And we were getting taxes down, regulation out of the way of business, and we have to get back to that. But look, in order to do all that, you need a very clear plan. And Reform have no plan. They had a manifesto with what Nigel Farage seems to now accept, at least, had a load of fantasy economics in it. It was totally undeliverable. And if Reform had won the last election, the first thing they'd have done would have been to have reneged on all their manifesto promises. We set out at our conference a clear plan for saving £47 billion across government spending, 23 billion of that on the welfare bill, getting that down and being able to then both bear down on the deficit and the debt, which is a fiscal responsibility point, and that is at the heart of our policy, whilst getting taxes down on people so that hard-working people can get rewarded, we can get the incentives right, and we can go out and really grow our economy.
What's your response to the lifting of the two-child benefit cap? Because we were speaking to the Chancellor earlier on in the programme, and she was very proudly speaking about lifting 450,000 children out of poverty.
The best way to get people out of poverty, Ellie, is through work, and we showed that when we were in government. You need to get people back into work, into well-paid jobs. You also need to get inflation down, those cost of living pressures, and this government's record on inflation has been utterly abysmal. We're going to have the highest inflation this year according to the IMF, and next year. Food inflation in particular has been rocketing away. So you need to get on top of those kind of things, and that is what our plan of getting on top of government spending and getting taxes down, easing those pressures on people is all about. On the two-child benefit cap, it is not right that hard-working taxpayers should have to take tough decisions around larger families, but those on benefits are not subject to having to take the same kind of difficult decisions as well. And I don't think most people think that that is fair.
We are out of time, but really good to talk to you. Thanks very much indeed.
Here's your weather.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Britain, for helping us reach 8 million followers across social media. Thank you for making us a part of your daily life.
Good morning, this is the latest AI travel news from gbnews.com. The A9 northbound south of Broxton roundabout is partially blocked due to a significant road traffic incident. Heavy traffic on the M5 northbound between junction 6 and 5, with 3 of 4 lanes closed, causes 1.5-hour delays. The M1 northbound between junction 21A and junction 22 has 2 lanes shut due to a collision. A broken down vehicle on the A11 southbound between junctions with the A47 and A1075 closes 1 lane. And on the trains, Chiltern Railways is experiencing disruption between West Ruislip and London Marylebone. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
It's the final week to see how you can enjoy Christmas on us. First, we'll give you an incredible £30,000 in tax-free cash. Then we'll give you a further £10,000 cash to spend on all your Christmas presents, even the tree. Christmas lunch, that's on us too, with £1,000 in shopping vouchers to spend at your favourite supermarket. Finally, a GB News Christmas goodie bag. For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus 1 standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus 1 standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB17 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 28th of November. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world. Am I allowed to talk now? No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact is Trump made a good start. No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints. How many fingers have I got up? About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's political podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's political podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Good morning. Taxes are lifted to a record high. Rachel Reeves reveals a budget with businesses, workers and savers paying the price.
Well, tax thresholds are frozen for an additional 3 years and the OBR is warning of low growth. Is the country being plunged into an economic doom loop? Well, earlier we spoke to the Chancellor herself.
I did have to increase taxes yesterday, but I've kept them to an absolute minimum on ordinary working people, freezing those thresholds for an additional 3 years from 2028. So more money in people's pockets, whether those are working families or indeed pensioners.
Well, Labour MPs are happy, the markets are calm, but how do you feel at home following £67 billion of tax rises over 2 budgets from a government that promised not to raise taxes on working people and absolutely have?
500,000 children set to benefit from free school meals from next year. We're here in South Shields speaking with working families to see if they'll actually feel the benefit.
We're here at Morley Market near Leeds. It's been running for 145 years and we'll be speaking to traders throughout the day as to what they make of the budget.
Now, is it time to say goodbye to the one-in, one-out scheme? Because research shows the government's partial migrant returns deal has deterred channel crossings at a lower rate than the Conservatives' Rwanda scheme that didn't actually ever start.
President Trump's son defends US Russian envoy Steve Witkoff. It's over leaked conversations which appear to show him coaching Russian officials on how to handle the US president.
It's a much milder day today for sure, but also quite cloudy and there's some rain around and strengthening winds, especially across parts of Scotland. Stick around to find out more.
It's just gone 9 o'clock. I'm Stephen Dixon.
I'm Ellie Costello and this is GB News Breakfast. Loads of you getting in touch with us this morning. Jill says, as I see it, the budget was all about Rachel and Starmer keeping their jobs. It wasn't at all for growth or the good of the country. Interesting, because it certainly went down well with the backbench MPs, didn't it?
Well, it did.
They were pleased with what they heard.
It's just the fact that a lot of people talk about cutting the welfare budget and now it's just gone up. Which is, you know, along with taxes. Tommy, we're talking about the Chancellor being a woman. And Tommy says the Chancellor being a woman is irrelevant. Surely we're long past all that nonsense. I mean, I agree.
I think you should mark history.
Oh,
She is the first
it.
female Chancellor. It's marked. And then from there on, you should be judged on your record, your merit. Roadrunner says Kemi is the front person. She's accompanied by a better speechwriter, but the rest of the Conservatives are just the same.
Yes, because we were saying that Kemi was sort of on fire yesterday.
She had a good day yesterday.
She did have a good day yesterday. What we didn't get, because we ran out of time, but I would have said to Mel Stride, right, you know, she was really good. Maybe you're making points that people agree with. However, when it comes to the polls, you know, you're down to 17, or was it 14 seats?
Yeah.
I think it was the latest poll, 14 seats. So it's not cutting through,
Still
as
not
they
cutting
say.
through, is it?
And that's got to be a big problem for the Conservatives. So keep your thoughts coming through. GB News. Oh, is this a new one?
It is a new one.
Oh, from Taff. Labour was right when they said you need to make work pay because it's workers who are the only ones who are paying through the nose after the last 2 budgets.
We'll keep those views coming in. It does feel a bit like that. Well, Rachel Reeves, of course, delivered her budget yesterday after months of gruelling anticipation. And this is what she said to GB News Breakfast earlier.
I did have to increase taxes yesterday, but I've kept them to an absolute minimum on ordinary working people, freezing those thresholds for an additional 3 years from 2028. So more money in people's pockets, whether those are working families or indeed pensioners.
Well, the drama began even before she got to the dispatch box.
Sorry. A leaked report from the Office for Budget Responsibility overshadowed her announcement, sparking fury across Westminster.
This is deeply disappointing and a serious error on their part. The Office for Budget Responsibility have already made a statement taking full responsibility for their breach.
Well, the Conservative leader, Kemi Badenoch, has demanded that Ms Reeves resigns, accusing the Chancellor of losing control.
It tells you everything you need to know about her grip on the Treasury. She's making the UK a shambolic laughingstock to international investors, and if she doesn't resign for breaking her promises, she should sure as hell go for this.
Well, let's speak now to our political correspondent, Catherine Forster, who joins us in the studio. Who was this budget for, do you think, Catherine?
Well, I think, really, it was largely for backbench Labour MPs because there were all sorts of rumblings. I've heard many Labour MPs absolutely furious with the Chancellor, with the Prime Minister, all these plots potentially to take them out. And a lot of this was aimed at keeping them on side and keeping the Chancellor and the Prime Minister in post at least till May next year. And I think that has happened. MPs I spoke to yesterday were broadly happy, though some very worried about how it's going to go down with the public. It was about keeping the markets calm, which it has done. But what it doesn't seem to have been about is the voters. The voters that voted for them when they said before the next election that the money would come from growth. The growth projections are pretty lacklustre. The standard of living is barely going to move over this Parliament. And Labour really, if they don't make people feel measurably better off before the next election and get net migration down, something which is also forecast on the OBR's projections to go up to about 250,000 at the end of this Parliament, then what will they have achieved? And I think, you know, the opposition's attack line, budget for benefit street, there is a direct correlation between freezing the tax thresholds and bringing in billions and billions more that way from working people and the 5 billion that they couldn't save on welfare, the 3 billion on scrapping the two-child benefit cap. There is money going on benefits and being taken from working people, and I think that's going to be a really tough sell for the public.
Well, it's a big question to answer. If the Conservatives say they can save £47 billion, of which 23 billion would be on the welfare bill, and they're putting all the Labour Party is doing is putting it up by 3 billion, then that's a big question that they've got to address.
Yes, I mean, welfare spending has gone up £10 billion since March. And in fairness to Labour, welfare spending was already on a very steep upward trajectory under the Conservatives. But the point is that Rachel Reeves tried to make difficult decisions, and Labour backbenchers, the welfare rebellion, turned round and said no. And there's enough of them that they have learned that they have got power. So when Ellie said, who is in charge, and the Chancellor said, I'm in charge of economic policy, we know that she's been forced into decisions that she didn't want to take. And, you know, they've always said it's country before party. But in this instance, I think there's been an awful lot of party before country and survival too, just for the moment.
All right.
Catherine, thank you very much.
Ian King, the business journalist, is here. What's your big takeaway from the budget, Ian?
Well, the headline is that this is the biggest tax raising, the story is that the UK is going to be paying more tax than it has done for decades. Tax is going to be a bigger share of GDP by the end of this decade, 38.3%, than it has been probably since the 1970s, or that sort of era. That, for me, is the biggest single takeaway. These two budgets together, last year's Halloween budget and this year's one, the overall amount of tax that's been taken out of the economy, through people, through businesses, put that together, it is certainly the biggest tax increase that the UK economy has faced since 1970. So we are in sort of fairly, for most people of working age, they won't have seen anything like this in their working lifetimes.
What I'm surprised at is, I mean, considering that they went into the election and, frankly, have talked about it since, and even since the last budget, about the importance of growth in the economy. I mean, there was certainly nothing to stimulate growth last year. There doesn't seem to be anything to stimulate growth this year.
I will defend the Chancellor here on this one, because actually the one thing that she hasn't done, if you cast your mind back to when George Osborne and the Coalition came into power in 2010, the first thing that they did in order to try and reduce public spending was to cut capital projects, in other words, long-term investment programmes. And Rachel Reeves hasn't done that. She's tried to preserve long-term investment plans. So, for example, the transport budget will be preserved up to a point. Long-term capital projects are still being supported. The nuclear power plants that are being built out, Sizewell C and so on. All of that is going ahead. They gave the green light earlier on this week to Heathrow Airport to build a third runway. I mean, that's something that the country's been talking about for nearly 60 years.
Wow.
So these are very, very long-term important projects that will be good for the UK economy. And she's done her best to preserve that. Shorter term, though, business does face a number of hits. I mean, the salary sacrifice thing, little understood, but as I was saying earlier to you, it's £4.7 billion a year. It's a big, big take. A lot of that, although it's going to hit individual workers, particularly those whose earnings are around £100,000 and who put money more into their pension to avoid the cliff edge that you face when your salary goes over that level, it will also hit employers very, very significantly, because when a worker makes a salary sacrifice, the employer saves paying employers' national insurance contributions on them. So it's another big hit for employers in that sense. And on the growth thing, they like to talk about entrepreneurs. There are a few measures there that are going to hit entrepreneurs selling small businesses. Again, not particularly good. Now, you might say, well, that necessarily isn't predictive of growth, since these are entrepreneurs who are selling up. But, it still has a bearing on someone who's setting up a business. And crucially, the Venture Capital Trust scheme, which has been an incredibly successful scheme over many, many years in terms of pumping money into small start-up businesses and scale-up businesses, they've cut the tax relief on that from 30% to 20%. Now, this is quite sort of niche stuff, but it will still have a bearing on entrepreneurship in this country. So
is that sort of EIS sort of stuff? Is that?
Yes, it's a sister investment thing to the EIS, yeah.
All right, OK.
Ian, it's been really good to have you with us today. Thank you very much.
Making sense of the madness.
Yes. Thank you very much.
Anyway, if you want to make sense of the madness, perhaps you want to try our budget calculator, which should break things down for you and to find out what you are going to have to pay, whether you pay more or perhaps even pay less. You never know. Try the budget calculator. You can scan the QR code that you can see on your screen now. If you're listening on the radio, the address you need is gbnews.com.
Yes, and there's a new way of getting in touch with us, actually. Friends of GB News, and if you are a friend of GB News, you can vote in today's You Decide poll by scanning the QR code on your screen now. Just take your phone up to the screen, scan that QR code, and you can take part. This is the question today.
Was the Chancellor right to cut the two-child benefit cap? I'm intrigued by this.
Yes.
Because, very popular with Labour. The Tories said they wouldn't do it. Reform would do it, I think. I think they said they would scrap the two-child benefit cap. Only 2% of you say it's a good idea. 98% saying no. It is costing us an additional £3 billion.
Yeah. Well, in yesterday's budget announcement, the Chancellor revealed that she will permanently lower tax rates for businesses.
Well, how will this really affect traders and small businesses? Let's head to Leeds and our reporter, Anna Riley. Morning, Anna.
Good morning to you both. You join us in Morley Market. It's been here since 1880, 145 years that people have been trading here. You join us here at Malcolm Feddy's store, chain store clearance workwear and clothes. You can see there's some bargains to be had here, certainly. And Malcolm has been running this business for the last 20 years. Good morning, Malcolm. Good morning. Thank you for joining us on GB News.
Good morning.
What did you make to the budget?
To be honest, I wasn't that impressed with it. I think she's gone back on a lot of the things she promised. Certainly in the manifesto, they promised no tax increases. And in the first budget she gave, that went after pensioners, farmers, they increased the VAT on school fees. So that was a lie to start with. And then in the second budget that's just gone, it was same again. In total, I think £66 billion tax rises. This time they've come after pensions, savings, and also landlords will be affected with a lot of other people. And they've gone back on the word. So I'm not really that very impressed with her.
How are you feeling as a business? Was there anything sort of to be pleased about business rate relief as such?
Yeah, they could have done a lot more. I think they could have taken another 250,000 businesses if they wanted out of business rates and done something to regenerate the high street, which the footfall's definitely been down this year. So I think that's been a big factor. But obviously, the thing is that from my personal point of view, irrespective of which government's in, when it gets to this time of the year, this is now my season. So I am busy, November, December, because it's cold, because of the products that we sell, and I've got a lot of regular customers that have been with me for a lot of years. So I am busy at the moment, but that's for 3 months. You know, obviously you've got to trade over a 12-month period. So the rest of the year's certainly been nothing to shout home about.
Thank you so much for joining us this morning, Malcolm, and we'll be here at Morley Market throughout the day speaking to other traders about what they make of the budget.
For bringing that to us.
Sorry, I was busy gossiping with Ian King, going through the minutiae of the budget. Honestly, Ian, you're here till midday, actually, aren't you? We should just have Ian on for about 4 hours solid and just...
sense of it all for us.
Because it's so confusing. It's going through all those little details, isn't it?
It does take a while to unpack, doesn't it? All those details.
Mind you, if you are worried about money, and frankly, who isn't at the moment, this would ease everything for you. You've got 1 day left on this. £40,000 in tax-free cash for Christmas, all in time for Christmas. £1,000 in supermarket vouchers to spend on Christmas dinner, and a GB News goodie bag, which, give it to someone you don't like, or...
No, I'm really excited. You get the GB News baubles that we modelled last year. They're huge. They're about this big.
I'm so unenthusiastic about a GB News goodie bag.
I'm enthusiastic. I'll make up for it.
I know.
With my enthusiasm.
I just sort of think when you've got all that money that you can win, the goodie bag's going to be the least...
It's the icing on top.
Be nice.
It's the icing on top. It's the cherry on the cake, if you like.
Anyway, if you fancy it, here's how you enter.
There's just 28 days until Christmas, and it's the final week to see how you can enjoy it on us. That's £30,000 in tax-free cash to make 2026 fantastic. A further £10,000 cash to spend on gifts for all the family, the tree and decorations. £1,000 in vouchers to buy a slap-up Christmas lunch at your favourite supermarket. And finally, a GB News Christmas goodie bag. Plus, we're going to get it all to you in time for the big day. For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB17 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 28th of November. The winner may be contacted live on GB News, week commencing the 8th of December. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions, but every Friday night at 9 p.m. you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
No,
because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Dubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's political podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's political podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Britain was once the envy of the world, but look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m. only on GB News.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pierce.
And me, Miriam Gates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
Now, in yesterday's budget announcement, the Chancellor said she's going to lift nearly 500,000 children out of poverty by lifting the two-child benefit cap.
So, how will families be affected by this? Let's go to South Shields, where we're joined by GB News reporter Bethany Elsey. Morning to you, Bethany.
Good morning, Stephen and Ellie. Yes, as you say, we're here in South Shields, one of the most deprived areas in England. It's actually listed the 12th most deprived area. So yes, things like the scrapping of the two-child benefit cap, as well as free school meals, is helping people. But speaking to working families here this morning, they say it just doesn't go far enough. I'm joined by one mam now, Sophie, who's a working mam of 3 kids. She's one of the 1 in 5 people in South Shields who are claiming universal credit, as well as being in work. Sophie, do you think the scrapping of the two-child benefit cap will go far enough to help families like yours?
It will benefit me personally, but I wouldn't say that it goes far enough. It is kind of a case of, you know, it will support us short term, but as someone who would like to work more at the moment, I work part-time. There's no incentive, there's no benefit to work more for me. I would be worse off, exactly, because the benefits will taper off, and then the extra travel, the extra childcare, things like that.
And the Chancellor is saying she's not increasing income tax or national insurance, but you were saying that this feels like a hidden tax, a stealth tax, by freezing the threshold.
Exactly. Any pay rise that I do get, it's going to get eaten away by, you know, it's not going up, it's not matching inflation and the rising costs. We were talking earlier about, you know, milkshake tax and you know, the hidden costs there, and it feels like we're essentially getting punished for giving our children the occasional treat instead of having the authority to make our own decisions. I'd like to see more to kind of encourage healthier choices by making, you know, with food shop more affordable, not getting punished for the odd sugar treat.
So some sweet nuggets to help soften the cost of living crisis, but not enough to solve the problem.
Thanks for bringing that to us.
Right, up next, it's Andrew and Miriam.
Sorry, that's
squeaking away.
That's the whole country will be squeaking after that budget.
Oh, no.
Yeah. I mean,
shocker.
What have you got coming up for us?
What we're doing in the budget, a lot
Yeah,
of.
lots of analysis of the budget, also the latest on the shooting in the US. But we will be focusing on what does this mean for businesses and people and pensioners up and down the country. We'll be speaking to people.
Well, see, the Chancellor said to us this morning, you know, some pensioners will end up with more, you know, more in their pocket. I mean, they are getting there is an increase in state pension, but they've been hit in every other way.
800,000 poor pensioners will be taken into tax by the end of this Parliament.
I think that's the thing. It doesn't fix anything.
No.
We're still a high debt, high tax, low productivity economy that needs serious reform. This is really just tinkering around the edges. Perhaps it wasn't as bad as some people predicted, but in the long term, it's not going to solve it.
And we're getting the new migration figures. And where are those 53,000 missing migrants? That is a small town missing. They will never, ever be found. Gone for good.
All that after your weather.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Good morning, this is your GB News weather update from the Met Office. It's fair to say it's quite a bit milder than it was this time yesterday for many of us, and the milder theme's going to continue through today, but with that it's also going to be quite cloudy and a bit wet at times. We have some rain across northern and western areas at the moment, and a lot of that is going to filter a bit further east and southeast as we go through the day, but it's going to take quite a while to move through, so actually some parts of the southeast staying largely dry at least through daylight hours, that is. Now, as I mentioned, it's mild, markedly milder than it was this time yesterday, and temperatures rising through the day. We're looking at highs around 13-14 Celsius, so a fair few degrees above average for the time of year. But we do need to watch out for some strong blustery winds. Breezy for all of us, but the strongest winds will be across northern and western parts of Scotland as we go through this evening, and overnight gusts of 60 to 70, perhaps 75 miles per hour here. Also plenty of showers across northern and western Scotland. Some of them could be quite heavy. A few showers across parts of Northern Ireland through this evening. Some clearer weather across much of northern England and Wales, but across central, southern, eastern England it's a cloudy, damp end to the day, but eventually that rain is going to clear away towards the southeast around midnight time. I'm expecting it to clear away entirely. Otherwise then, clearer skies following in behind for most, but still plenty of showers towards the north and west. Still those strong winds to watch out for as well towards northwest Scotland. Temperatures not dropping as low as they have done through some recent nights. Despite the clear skies, that breeze will stop it from getting especially chilly. Then Friday actually looks like a largely fine start for many. Still breezy for sure, but a lot of sunshine to be had first thing. More showers developing as we go through the day, coming in from the west and fairly frequent across parts of Scotland. Some winteriness mixed in over the higher ground too. Watch out as those showers could merge into some longer spells of rain at times, and temperatures around average, so not quite as high as they are today.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Thank you, Britain, for making us the fastest growing news website in the nation, because the truth matters, and so do you.
Good morning. This is the latest AI travel news from gbnews.com. The M5 northbound between junctions 6 and 5 in Worcestershire has 3 lanes closed, causing delays until midday. The A9 southbound at Keir roundabout is partially obstructed by a broken-down vehicle. The M4 eastbound off-slip at J33, Capel Lanilturn, is congested. Drivers on the A19 northbound between the A184 and A185 in South Tyneside should anticipate delays. Congestion on the A38 eastbound results in 10-minute delays. And on the trains, Chiltern Railways faces major disruption between West Ruislip and London Marylebone. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
People are getting married less because, society has changed. People are simply becoming more secular. And because they're becoming more secular, they don't view that marriage is a divine religious institution, and that more and more people have turned away from God, and because they've turned away from God, they don't view, the institution that has been the bedrock of society. So society has changed. People have moved away from religion or organized religion, and they just don't view it as a bedrock of religious religious growth. People don't think getting right with the Lord Jesus or having a pastor in their life as part of their marriage. Also, younger people today care more about their careers. They care more about financial stability. They care more about, having their own lives and their freedom than traditional marriage than it used to be. So it's just a big change of society today.
And Charlie Downs, does that matter? Are there negatives to being focused on career and choosing to shack up as opposed to get married in church?
Very much so. I mean, I like to think that I am slightly swimming against the tide because, there we go, I got married at the beginning of last month and I'm 23.